Hello there everybody, how are we all? I'm alive! But sometimes I do ask why. How are we getting on? Hopefully we're well. Yes, my hair. Bit mental, right? But it's now long enough that I need to tie it back, right? But I've noticed a certain thing, right? I tie it back like that, right? So it's mostly out of the way. But I have sort of noticed that I definitely don't at all look like the police mugshot of a sex offender. I don't look like that at all. I look lovely and sharp. I also definitely don't look like a recently captured Serbian war criminal. So, again, sharp. I look lovely. Fucking silly bollocks, man. Anyway, how is everybody on this fine Monday? I would have been on yesterday with no justice, but I'll be on today with no justice in a second. But Mama Bear, my mum broke her foot because she is old. So, yeah. I mean, just things happen, you know. Or someone who married a car. Yeah, could have been one of them. What if you raised money to get Kev to get his head and beard shaved? Yeah, we could probably go for something like that. I don't know. Ramzan Kadyrov. I do look at. He was a bit Kadyrov, certainly. Yeah. I might need to change up the style a bit, frankly. None of the comparisons are good, are they? You know. Don't worry, she's fine. The dopey mare. We tried to get her to go to the hospital way earlier. She's like, oh, it's just bruising. Her foot was black. Looked like it was fucking disease, like it was about to drop off. And then she rang me and was like, I think I might need to go to the hospital. You reckon? So we had to drive her to the fucking hospital. I mean, I didn't have to drive her to the hospital, but like, she was like, oh, I'll get an ambulance. The ambulances barely turn up if you're dying. They're not going to fucking bother turning up for you. They're fucking useless now. The Tories have destroyed them and Labour have done nothing to improve them. They're awful. As you might be able to tell, still getting over a tiny little bit of the flu. Just a smidge. Like, I'm past the worst of it. I feel, like, physically, basically fine. Still, bit of phlegm, bit of cough, bit of sneeze. Nothing dreadful, but, like, just a little bit. So my usual dulcet tones are a little affected. And apparently, some cunt has decided that I live on a racetrack again. Just as I've started streaming. Thanks. There was Hamas and the baby for me. Well, we'll get on to it, Haruka, yeah. Fucking bad times, man. Anyway, talking of raising money for Kev, as someone did a second ago, you can give me money to do nothing, other than this stream, if you wanted to, in the form of, you can, what can you do here? You can do memberships on YouTube. I'll be back on Twitch as well tomorrow. Technically, I've got another 4 hours and something until the fucking ban stops, so you know. Anyway, but yeah, you can become a member for 99 pence. You can give memberships to the community, and you can do super chats. And you should do that because I didn't even fucking configure my bastard video, so I look like a fucking tomato. What an absolute twat! I am a professional, chat. I hope you know that. There you go. That's vaguely the fucking texture of my face now. What happened to the old Labour Party of Attlee and Wilson? It got destroyed. It got destroyed by a wave of spineless, self-serving, careerist wankers from the 1960s onwards, but ramping up in the 80s and 90s. I don't want to do this anymore! Oh, there we go. That's the sweet stuff. What happened there? Thank you, Katie Marshall, with barber money, £2. Thank you very much, yes. Did Twitch tell you what happened? No, they never do. That's the thing with YouTube and Twitch. They never tell you, unless you're one of the big streamers, they never tell you exactly what you did wrong. I assume it must have been the title, right, which was it no straights allowed? Which then led me to think, what would be funny to do as the title for the comeback stream would be, okay, some straights allowed. Like it was a negotiation, right? But they'd probably take offence at that. And if you get a second strike, they can fuck you over for like months or whatever, so... yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay. Thank you, Tess, with £2 It says hair tie fund, indeed. Although to be fair, I've already bought my hair ties. They're these weird little plasticky ones. Like, I'm not looking for anything pretty. Should put that on my fucking grinder. I don't have a grinder. I don't know why I said that like I did.
Oiled like a baby otter.
Thank you to Carl Brown for gifting a membership. Much love to ya. And thank you, Big Zebra, for becoming a member for 2 months. Much love. And thank you, Carl Brown, again for gifting a membership. Lots of memberships being thrown around, and I appreciate that enormously. Oh, sex chocolate. Anyway, yes, we're on with No Justice. We're going to watch Laura Koonsberg from yesterday, which we were going to watch yesterday, but then my mum decided to break her foot. And yeah, it was a purposeful decision on her part, I'm sure. She moves in mysterious ways, that bint. I'm telling you.
Oiled like a baby otter.
Oiled like a baby otter, indeed. What was that noise? I don't know. Did I read that one out already? I'm not sure. Thank you, Carl. I'll suck you off, mate. It's, give me time. Right. Okay. No, don't allow. I don't want to allow that. Fuck off, tech, you cunts. I have a grinder you can have to lend if you want. Well, no, I could have a grinder. I just don't need to. Because look at me, I'm a cock magnet. I don't need any fucking apps for this. Kev's the fucking cock goalie. Just say it, I'm slapping him away. Get away from me, you fools. Your mum tried to protect you from award-winning journalism. Well, she failed.
I don't want to do this anymore!
Such a horrible thing to say. No, I love her. She's alright. But she's going to milk this, I'm telling you. She's going to be walking around like old Mother Hubbard. Actually, was she injured? I don't know. I always imagine her hunched over like an old lady. So she's going to old Mother Hubbard this shit. Thank you, Big Zebra, with 10 Canadian dollars. For Kev's cut fund, his hair, not circumcision. You have to cut the beard off too. Well, for the immediate future, I won't be cutting either my penis or my hair, or indeed the hair on my penis. But like I say, just for the time being, really. At some point in the future, I might. Any combination of those things. Had a lovely afternoon as well, because my mother was in the fucking hospital. Selfish bitch. I had to look after my nephew and niece, which was genuinely lovely. We watched... I'd never seen this film, and I had no intention of ever seeing this film. But on the old Netflix arena, I watched... what was the film called again? Not Inside Out or something. Anyway, it's the one where it's the emotions inside the young girl's head. I think it's called Inside Out or something. Anyway, and it's a kids' film, but it was not a bad kids' film. And then we played hopscotch. We made a hopscotch thing in the front garden with chalk on the pavement. It was lovely. It was the most delightful, innocent fun a man can have. Fact.
Hello, Kevin. Just before I start, I've got you muted on my end. Are you still banned on Twitch?
Yes.
Is that until tomorrow then?
For the next 4 hours and 10 minutes.
The next 4 hours and 10 minutes. Okay. Well, I will turn off my Twitch stream then. Let me put my YouTube link in chat. Anyway, how are you?
I'm very well. I don't know if I'm still muted though, so I'm confused and scared.
You are still muted, yeah.
Okay, well, I am very well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I had a pretty uneventful day today. So, Twitch viewers, I'm gonna have to shut down the Twitch stream. So please go and click the YouTube link that I've just popped in the Twitch chat.
Oh, I should explain for my people. Yeah, Helena can't stream this on Twitch because that would be ban evasion, both by me and her, on the thing. So yeah, that's just the way it has to be because the Kev made a heterophobic joke.
You did engage in a very, very large amount of heterophobia.
I did.
It was awful.
Well, I think it was because my title was "No Straights Allowed," right, for the first day of Pride, and they banned me for that. So I wanted, and I'm not going to do this because they're definitely like ban me again. But I wanted the first stream back to be called "Okay, Some Straights Allowed," like it was a negotiation, you know. But no, that would probably still be a bit heterophobic or whatever. Thank God I didn't use the C word. Am I right? Oh, crazy.
Right, so we're now only live on the YouTubes, which should theoretically, right, just gonna redirect people from the old YouTube stream to the new YouTube stream.
You've got hang on, what? You've got a new YouTube stream? What?
Yeah, because I had to close down my stream and then open up a new one.
Oh,
so that
okay.
Otherwise I would be on Twitch. So. Because you can't, when you're on YouTube, you can cut the stream, and then I can continue streaming on Twitch, and there's no YouTube stream. But Twitch doesn't have that function because Twitch is shit. So with Twitch, you have to cut down the stream from your source and then restart it again later.
Well, that's why I use a dual streaming service, and it gives you the option to stop and start either, or you can do, I think it's up to 12 platforms, but I only use like 3. Up and you can start and stop them as many times as you like individually, which is good. But it does take up more bandwidth or something, which slows things down. I don't fucking know. Like, I'm not doing anything that complicated, so.
Yeah, my one has automated to the integrated chat, and it will pull through all of the different alerts from each side at the same time and give people access to more things. It's just I just find it way more simpler. I have Streamlabs OBS.
Yeah.
It does my dual stream for me, and I just don't have to worry.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, apologies I wasn't around yesterday. My mother, the silly bitch, not only decided to break her foot, because obviously, but decided earlier in the afternoon when I went round there, oh, I don't need to go to the hospital, it's fine. And then rang me 2 hours before the show was about to start with, I might need to go to the hospital. And she was like, oh, I'll ring an ambulance. And I was like, Mum, they don't turn up if you're dying. They're definitely not going to fucking turn up for you with a broken foot.
Just get an Uber. Like, literally.
Well, I drove her, yeah. Because, like, the fucking ambulance would have taken days. Yeah, ridiculous. But, you know, decade of renewal. Yay. Yeah, so that was annoying, and then we had to wait around for fucking ages to be seen, and then...
Yeah, I mean, ironically, on Friday, I was going to do a stream myself. I was going to do a bonus stream on the Friday. I had to take someone to A&E as well then, too. So it's been a weekend for us all, hasn't it? Mine was a bit of a false alarm, though, but, you know, that needs must. And
well, this is why I try not to... I try to only curate parasocial relationships, because actual social relationships come with, like, time constraints, and I can't be dealing with it. You have to buy Christmas presents and everything. It's a nightmare.
Actual responsibility, I know, right?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
If the thing we got into streaming for was to shirk and avoid responsibility.
Exactly. You can talk for a bit, and then you can shut the world off, and you can not turn up to work some days. It's lovely. Yeah, perfect.
It's great, honestly. When they said, you know, get into the gig economy and be your own boss, I was very skeptical, and now I'm in the gig economy and my own boss, and I'm just like, it's great. It
is great. Yeah.
And you know what, this is why I do what I do. This is why I fight for who I fight for, because otherwise you'd spend the entire time, everyone else in the world has shitty jobs where they have to wake up at stupid o'clock and work fucking 45-hour weeks, and that's something I stand against. And so I've decided for it not to be for myself, and I'm fighting so that nobody else has to do it either.
Well, no, I'm fighting to make money for Jeff Bezos.
I'm Raytheon. Don't forget Raytheon.
Oh, Raytheon as well, obviously. I have been enjoying the slightly muted gay-friendly responses from many of the usual pinkwashers. They've taken the anti-woke backlash to heart. Which, I mean, okay, fuck you then. Like, we knew you didn't believe it anyway, you pricks. Like, yeah, get wrecked.
Literally. And it's
Like,
just, again, so...
you always disgusted me to see, like, Barclays advertising at fucking Pride. What the fuck off? Go away, you cunts.
No pride in genocide.
Yeah, exactly. You're not only you funding Israel now, you funded South Africa when it was apartheid. Get wrecked.
Literally. And that's the thing as well, is that so many right wingers were just like, oh, well, the woke corporations are trying to control us and turn us gay. And I'm like, I'm sorry, are you a fucking child? Do you not understand how capitalism works, right? Do you think the CEO of Barclays has any kind of sincerely held social opinions at all? Or do you not understand the concept of the profit motive?
Honestly,
Like,
if
they think they're... Yeah.
if they think it was profitable, Barclays would have a fucking advertisement outside Auschwitz. They wouldn't have given
Exactly.
a fuck.
I mean, ironically, of course, is that the Zyklon B is a fucking brand name.
Yep. And IG Farben, the company that made it, still trade under IG Farben.
Love it.
Today. Joseph Mengeler's family, the Mengeler Manufacturing Company, still make farm production machines under Mengeler Manufacturing. Today.
Incredible. But then again, like, the fucking Oswald Mosley's grandson gets space on fucking BBC to shill for Palantir.
Who are very much the IG Farben of today, yeah.
Yeah.
They will be... Oh, no, not IG Farben. Who was it? IBM, who did the punch cards for Auschwitz, lest we forget. They are the IBM of the 21st century.
Very true, very true.
Oh,
dear.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, talking of 21st century Nazis, the Israelis, they've hijacked the boat with Greta Thunberg and all the other cool people in it.
Whoa. The boat, I thought it was the selfie yacht, according to the Israeli government's Hasbro department and LBC, apparently.
Well, you repeat yourself, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, the selfie yacht. Which is so ironic, considering the IDF constantly taking selfies in other people's, like, underwear and things, you know. They've been doing a selfie genocide, so to speak.
But literally, imagine trying to have a go at Greta Thunberg and Rima Hassan for wanting to virtue signal as many people, including like Brendan Ayler, and apparently Benjamin Butterworth has been ranting about that they're virtue signaling about trying to deliver aid to starving children. And it's just like, yeah, no, and they're taking selfies. I'm like, bitch, like, the members of the fucking IOF have been taking selfies in the underwear of Palestinian women that they fucking ethnically cleansed. Right, can we get a sense of perspective, please?
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. So they've been hijacked, kidnapped in international waters, massive crime. Fantastically, from a British perspective, the main boat, the Madeleine, was actually flying under a British flag. So I presume the British government will now see this as the act of war that it clearly fucking is by a hostile foreign state and go and save those people. No?
David Lammy, stand up for Britain, incredible.
No, obviously not. They not just fed them, they want international applause, the Israeli government, for not murdering them. Like, yeah, let's give them a balloon and a smiley sticker. Thanks for not killing these individual ones. Although, of course, some of them were white, so, you know, they were a bit confused by it all, I think.
I mean, the Israel Cats even like made threatening statements about potentially killing these people, right?
Yeah,
the defense
absolutely,
minister was tweeting out about how they'd be very happy to give these people what for when they're coming. It's a fucking people trying to deliver aid.
Yeah. They were delivered aid themselves in the form of food, which just goes to show you when the Israelis want to deliver food to people, they can. They just choose not to because they're trying to starve some people, of course. They imprison them, force them to watch videos of October the 7th. Because, like, what? Did you assume they were doing this convoy because they were unaware of that event taking place? Ever? Because, like, literally every discussion of this that's ever taken place is October 7th, October the 7th, October the 7th. So, like, shut the fuck up. And they're now, of course, going to extradite all of those people back to their home nations.
Baby otter.
So
after, according to Dropsite News, keeping them in solitary confinement and being under the authority of Itamar Ben-Gvir, the guy who has a photo of a terrorist up on his wall in his cabinet office.
Well, so far, as far as we're aware, none of them have been raped. So, I mean, that's a step up in terms of treatment from the Israeli state. You know?
Not quite Sidi Tayman levels of awful conditions that they're keeping these people in. You know.
Yeah, although again, some of them are white, so I think they do get human rights in Israel.
And also the thing as well is that people are pointing out the fact that they have been very deliberately trying to publish footage of them online, of giving them water and stuff. That's the thing that they do very often.
Yeah.
In these situations, as part of the Hasbro grift, is that they completely whitewash the things that they do behind the scenes by having these kind of carefully scripted and narrativized online videos that they use to try and spread Hasbro propaganda. That, no, we're not the evil ones. I know we're starving a population deliberately. And Benjamin Netanyahu made a fucking TikTok video the other day bragging about how they had literally funded ISIS in Gaza to shoot civilians to pretend it was Hamas. Right? This is how sick these people are.
Having funded and aided and abetted Hamas in order to break away the Gaza Strip from the rule of the PA.
Yes, exactly. You know,
It's literally the American thing. Just fund a baddie, and then when that baddie turns, fund another baddie to fuck over that baddie.
Yeah, it's like
again and again and again.
Yeah, it's like Hayek to Rear Al Shams all over again, right? The enemy to start with, and then the friend now. I guess that's in reverse. Oh, it's funny how Hamas is ISIS was their line the whole time. Maybe they started funding ISIS because they couldn't tell the difference and did it by accident.
I was about to say, maybe it was actually their sly way of telling the truth. The Hamas you think is there is actually ISIS because we're paying them to be there pretending to be Hamas.
Well, like, the irony, of course, is that Israel was ISIS all along.
Although that's still my favourite racist conspiracy theory of all time. That ISIS actually stands for the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. Because famously, ISIS and Israel would definitely do that in English and not either Hebrew or Arabic. Brilliant.
Oh,
yeah, fantastic. Well
incredible,
done.
Incredible. Right, let me find the Benjamin Butterworth tweet, because my God, that guy's a fucking weapon.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyle Palmer, with 5 gifted memberships. Much love to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for the gifted on my end as well. Thank you for the 10 gifted, David, and a couple of re-ups of memberships from Davinia and David as well. Appreciate you both.
Yeah.
Let me find this Benjamin Butterworth tweet, because my God, it's an absolute. He's getting roasted in the replies. One sec. Oh yeah, this is the tweet where he posted a picture of Greta Thunberg wearing a keffiyeh and flying a Palestinian flag, going, "I'm old enough to remember when the hard left condemned white Europeans dressing up in other cultures' garb and going into their lands to tell them what to do. Didn't we call this white savior syndrome until last week?" She's trying to feed starving children, Ben. First of all, the idea of somebody dressing up in someone's cultural clothes, right? It was when it was a fashion statement being used with no connection to the original problem, or the original thing, right? That's what cultural appropriation was. It was not understanding the historical significance of something and then using it as a fashion item. This is what solidarity looks like. That's not a fashion statement. That is her going to feed children and wearing a keffiyeh in solidarity. Shows you how much liberals understand the things that they critique. And second of all, no one's telling them what to do. They're going there with food and medical supplies.
Imagine that. No, don't tell them what to do. They might not want to eat. How dare you? Trying to force your Western concepts of diet? That's outrageous. Maybe they just want to starve to death.
Literally. And this is coming from the same guy, by the way, who pretended to be black so that he could be a caucus delegate for the National Union of Students.
Oh, I do like. I can't stand Greta Thunberg and her calorific imperialism.
Right, as even some of the replies goes, right, the Politics for You parody account, which is very, very funny, I recommend following, says, "You seem really upset about a young woman trying to feed some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. Could you not direct your rage at something more productive?" And his response, again, is just more of the dumb shit. She isn't feeding anything but her ego. This is performative, inflammatory indulgence. Charting yacht across the Mediterranean and live streaming your trip is not help. I mean, it is help because they're going there literally with food and aid supplies. It's a flotilla, not like a single ship. And anyway, it just shows you how far that liberals will sink to try and essentially denigrate anyone who does more to make the world a better place than them. Right?
Yeah.
The level to which that they do is all good and correct and justified and morally right. Anything above what I do must be being done completely disingenuously for personal points, right? For personal, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for?
Virtue signaling clout or something.
Yeah, for clout, yeah, for self-aggrandizement. That's the word I was looking for. They can't entertain the idea that someone might just be more morally correct than them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And not just that, but like, if they don't do anything, if you just talk about it, they're like, "Oh, you're all talk. Where's your action? What are you actually doing?" Well, she was literally trying to get there. You're literally trying to do something, and that's still not enough, apparently.
Oh, apparently now, I just looked down on the thread, he's now defending the CIA front Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, trying to say,
Right.
the 7 million free meals went into Gaza from Israel by a CIA operative, by a CIA-operated organization that then murdered them.
Yeah.
This man's sick. He's sick in the head. These people are just not well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Also, Los Angeles is on fire. So that's awesome.
It is. It's not going well for the people over there in.
It's not, but again, it's the meme. Xi Jinping, do nothing, win. Just sit back and watch America fucking implode.
It's very funny. Actually, speaking of, also, just before we move on from Israel, I think this article is actually probably worth going through in full, because, my God, it's just the most depraved thing you've ever heard.
Who's this? Oh, Pigfuckerino! Let's go! Okie dokie.
Not content with just ensuring that people die in his own country. Remember, 330,000 excess deaths from austerity were linked to Cameron and Osborne era policies. It is now found out by Middle East Eye that he threatened to withdraw the UK from the International Criminal Court because Karim Khan wanted to have prosecutions for Yoav Gallant and Benjamin Netanyahu for
And
crimes
this
against
is
humanity.
especially delightful given that he was unelected into that position as a member of the House of Lords. So literally, you wanted to withdraw us from our international obligations as an unelected pig-fucking member of the pig-fuckers. Brilliant.
Literally.
Thanks, Dave. Honestly. Amazing shit. Honestly, what the fuck is it about Israel? No other nation gets treated this way. No other... the bizarre one of it might seem unrelated, but hopefully you'll get what I mean here. The Gary Lineker was interviewed Mo Salah, a guy from Egypt and a Muslim, right? Who has spoken out about Gaza in the past. And they didn't even play that on the last episode of Gary Lineker hosting Match of the Day because they might reference Gaza. They, of course, had Gary Lineker interview Alexander Zinchenko for an hour purely about the Ukraine-Russia war on that very same programme. That's absolutely fine, apparently, but you can't talk about Israel and Gaza at all. Why is it that these the weird double standards? Why does Israel get treated this fucking stupid kid gloves way all the time?
I mean, it's very, very interesting that you make that point, because once you read the article, that specific point gets brought up, and oh my God, you're going to lose your mind, Kevin. It's well worth reading on.
Okie dokie. Right, shall I read? Do you want to read? Which way around do you want to do it?
You read it out.
Okie dokie. Exclusive. David Cameron threatened to withdraw UK from ICC over Israel war crimes probe. Former Foreign Secretary told ICC President Karim Khan that issuing arrest warrants for Israeli leaders would be like, quote, dropping a hydrogen bomb, unquote. Which, obviously not, you stupid, stupid man.
I mean, you know what is like dropping a hydrogen bomb? What Israel have done to Gaza.
Dropping all of those regular munitions on all of Gaza, yes.
I mean, you would expect, like, the total yield of the bombs dropped must be similar to the total yield of an atomic weapon at this point.
Well, mate, it must be. It must be. You literally got hundreds of miles or square miles, whatever, of land just turned to rubble. Yeah, must be.
I think I calculated that the bombing intensity in terms of number of bombs dropped in a certain area of land over a certain point of time, the intensity is stronger during this conflict, during the genocide, than during Operation Barrel Roll. That, for the uninitiated, is the covert American bombing campaign of Laos and Vietnam during the resistance war against America, which is the most sustained bombing campaign in human history.
Yes. Yeah. There's a fantastic image, I say fantastic, disgusting image, but a wonderful example. But they've got the entirety of what was called the Indochina region, and they've got a black dot representing something like 1,000 bombs or whatever. And literally there are parts of it that have got so many black dots on it that the country beneath it disappears. The entirety of that region was bombed so strongly that it doesn't exist beneath the weight of dots.
Laotian people to this day get amputated
Yep.
by exploding ordnance because so much of their country is essentially just a minefield, right? Like Barack Obama had to go to Laos and officially apologize for Operation Barrel Roll.
Interestingly, Christy sent me a thing because she lives in Cologne. Part of the district in which she lived, although she was actually in Bristol away on a thing, but part of the district in which she lives was shut down because they found 3 unidentified previously World War II bombs. So they're still finding British bombs in Germany now.
And the bombing campaign in Germany was nowhere near, nothing even close
Oh,
to the
no,
level
yeah,
of
absolutely.
intensity
Yeah.
as anything that happened in the Resistance War.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Anyway, where were we? The British government privately threatened to defund and withdraw from the International Criminal Court if it issued arrest warrants for Israeli leaders, Middle East Eye can reveal. David Cameron, then Foreign Secretary in Rishi Sunak's Conservative government, made the threat in April 2024 in a heated phone call with Karim Khan, the British chief prosecutor of the court. Less than a month later, Khan announced that she was seeking arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his then Defence Secretary Yoav Gallant, as well as for Hamas leaders Yahya Sinwar, Ismail Haniyeh and Mohammed Diaf. In a statement at the time, Khan called for his office and the court to be allowed to carry out their work with, quote, full independence and impartiality. I insist that all attempts to impede, intimidate and improperly influence the officials of the court must cease immediately, he said. Now, I bet people at the time didn't realise it was the British Foreign Secretary doing that. But there we go.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, yeah. Well, now we know that the public statements he was making about people interfering was literally our government trying to do that.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Also very funny, since Karim Khan's brother is the ex-Tory MP for Warrington, I believe, who was removed as an MP because he got sent to prison for being a child rapist, which is very funny to me.
Well, I mean, he is a Tory backbencher. What did you expect? Like surely they are the most high-risk group for being Nazis. Surely.
literally are the Oh, no, it wasn't Warrington. It was Wakefield. Wakefield. He was convicted of sexually assaulting a minor. Imran Ahmad Khan, who is the brother of Karim Khan. So there's a link to the Tory party already here.
I'm just saying, I think there's a differential in how the parents view their children in that family. Probably a great deal of pride in one direction, not so much in the other. You know.
They're similar in terms of the dynamic of the children being of different kind of levels of stature between the Corbyn brothers.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Like you expect generational decline, maybe, but look, within the same generation, that's just weird. That's strange.
Yeah, not to say that Piers Corbyn is on the same level as Imran Ahmad Khan. Let's be very, very clear. That's not what I'm trying to say.
He does not spit fat rhymes like Piers Corbyn. So.
No, he doesn't. He does not. He will, and he probably did take the vaccine.
Anyway, Middle East Eye understands that on the 16th of March 2024, Khan's extensive team of lawyers and researchers had decided that they would be in position to apply for warrants by the end of April. On the 25th of March, Khan informed the US administration of his decision and forewarned them that the warrants would be applied by the end of April. Then on the 15th of April in London, the prosecutor told British Justice Secretary Alex Chalk that he would apply for the warrants. Khan had asked to meet the Foreign Secretary, but Cameron was out of the country with his trotters up.
In Nice.
Yeah, twat. Cameron, a former British Prime Minister who was appointed Foreign Secretary by Sunak in November 2023, phoned Khan while the prosecutor was on the official visit to Vuvuzela on the 23rd of April. MEE can reveal details of the call based on information from a number of sources, including former staff in Khan's office familiar with the conversation, who had seen the minutes of the meeting. Cameron told Khan that applying for warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant would be, quote, like dropping a hydrogen bomb, unquote. Cameron said it was one thing to investigate and prosecute Russia for a, quote, war of aggression, unquote, on Ukraine, but quite another to prosecute Israel when it was, quote, defending itself from the attacks of October 7th. Yeah.
And again,
I've
right,
somewhat
like,
editorialised the...
it's worth pointing out as well, specifically, that so much is pinned on October the 7th as the quote-unquote start of the conflict, right? Obviously, if you've watched our channels for any amount of time, you'll know that's a stupid way of pointing this out, because the history of Israel and Palestine goes back a long, long time, right? But there's a very specific point here, which is that the war never stopped because there is a specific case of belligerent occupation, right?
Yeah.
There's a constant state of conflict between Israel and Palestine, specifically because Palestine is not a state. It is an occupied territory at this point under the United Nations banner, for example.
Yes.
But that means that if you're a belligerent occupier, you're in a constant state of conflict. So whether or not Hamas committed war crimes on October the 7th, because obviously they did, we've all seen them now. Plenty of people, including the flotilla now, have seen more of those than we have. But right, we all know the reality of the war crimes that were committed. But the fundamental act of resisting occupation by attacking the military targets they did attack on that day as well is very specific to the ongoing nature of the conflict of occupation, right?
Yeah.
So defending yourself from the attacks of October 7th as if you were aggressed upon and you're responding is not the same thing as Russia invading because of their quote-unquote concerns about, the denazification of Ukraine or other such bollocks, The specific point of saying, they're responding to October the 7th makes you think that this is a conflict started by Hamas, when it absolutely is not.
Yeah. He claimed the warrants would have, quote, profound implications in Britain within his own Conservative Party. Cameron then said that if the ICC issued warrants for Israeli leaders, the UK would, quote, defund the court and withdraw from the Rome Statute, unquote. Which, just goes to show you how committed the British government are when it really counts to the concept of the rule of law in the world.
Well, they have signed up to the reality of the liberal international order, of the international rules-based order, in its not explicit terms, but in its de facto terms, which is that this applies to the East, to non-Western nations. It only applies to the global South and those on the imperial periphery, right?
Yep.
Now, of course, that's not what the nature of the law says. That's not what the word of the law is, but its founding principle is basically undermined by the way it is actually implemented in reality, which is to protect the global North and the imperial core.
Yeah.
And to punish those outside of it, right? It's the classic conservative argument of what the law exists to do, which is to protect the in-group and to demonize the out-group. And that's been how international law and how the international rules-based order, quote-unquote, has acted since its inception. And so David Cameron here is just telling you and being open in what we're seeing here. I guess this was closed because it was behind closed doors until it was leaked to Middle East Eye. The reality of this situation, the reality of this dynamic, right? He knows this. He fundamentally knows this. When he says, well, it's one thing to do it to Russia, another thing to do it to Israel, it's like, yeah, because international law only applies to people who are enemies of America, enemies of the West, and enemy of the global North.
Exactly. International law until it's inconvenient for us. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
then we can just remove ourselves, and that's absolutely fine. Thank you, Alex Otter, for re-upping. Much love. Article 127 of the Rome Statute, the ICC's founding charter, allows countries to withdraw by written notification to the Secretary-General of the United Nations.
And it shows you, this specific one saying we will withdraw not just in terms of the International Criminal Court, but the entire Rome Statute itself shows you how cucked we are to Israel, right?
Oh,
how
pathetically
fully
so,
cucked we are, right? In that we will literally give up our membership of an international body, right? Of being essentially at the seat, a signatory to one of the most kind of powerful institutions globally outside of like the United States of America, just because we are throwing a fucking temper tantrum over the fact that they're holding our allies to account rather than our enemies. It's such pathetic, childish behavior, as well as being monstrous and morally totally bereft.
Indeed. Cameron, who currently sits as a Conservative peer in the House of Lords, the upper house of the UK Parliament, accused the prosecutor of singling Israel out. Oh, the poor little Israel! Oh, you've been mean to Israel.
Like, again, it's just crazy talk. Oh, you're singling Israel out. What, as opposed to the time they've singled out the entirety of the global South and not held anyone from the global North accountable since its fucking inception? Like, it literally
how many UN have they broken or not complied with? Dozens at this point. What do you mean they're being singled out? They're the worst country in terms of following international law in the world, funded by probably the second worst. Look, it's ridiculous. What are you talking about? Why did those international war crimes tribunals single out those poor Nazis? Really?
Again, it's crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff, and again, it's just a real damning indictment of the reality of the global north and their approach to internationalism, and that they never have believed in it. It's always been a fucking lie.
Oh, of course it has. Although it has been interesting to see the likes of Ed Lee now outflanking Starmer to the left on this. They literally, he and his mates turned up to Downing Street to deliver a letter asking the British government to recognise the state of Palestine, and they wouldn't even let them into Downing Street to post the letter so that they could then put it in the shredder. Like, do you know what I mean? They wouldn't even let them do that. Ed Lee is now a revolutionary socialist by comparison to the actual Labour Prime Minister. Fucking hell. What a time to be alive.
Literally. I mean, they even had, in their group of people trying to deliver the letter, they even had one of the people who stood up in Parliament and said, I've literally been an Israel supporter all my life, but I was wrong. I admit that I was wrong, right? That guy has more moral spine than basically the entirety of the fucking cabinet put together. Mad
shit. He asked why Khan's office had, quote, not prosecuted Iran for its attacks on Israel.
Because they were responding to a belligerent action by fucking Israel. They had casus belli because Israel had literally hit a fucking consulate that is protected by the Vienna Conventions in Syria. They attacked Iranian soil, right? The people, how is it at this point? How am I? This is so fucking topsy turvy. I have to protect Iran's kind of deference to the international rules based order because they have been closer to following it than Israel and the West. Right, it's crazy stuff. This is ruled by a fucking insane Islamist dictator in the form of the fucking Ayatollah, right? Someone who has numerous human rights abuses under his belt. And even he has more deference to the rules of conflict and the rules of war and international order than the fucking British and Israeli and American governments.
But also, I hate to break this to the former Prime Minister, former Foreign Secretary, and father of two, David Cameron, but you can't just point to the other kid and go, why aren't you having a go at him? He did it as well. You can't point to the other kid and say he did it, so therefore you shouldn't punish me. No, you have to take the punishment for the thing that you did. Okay? That's the way that works. I can't believe you understood this, given that you have, like I say, parented two children. You really ought to have imparted that information to them. You are a role model. And a grown man, for fuck's sake. Anyway,
it's genuinely pathetic. Pathetic.
Yeah.
It's just also worth pointing out as well, right? That this is David Cameron, who's appointed as the Foreign Secretary.
Yes.
And he's asking Karim Khan, why haven't you prosecuted Iran for its attacks on Israel? Why haven't you, for example, as an ICC, which is for people? The ICJ is for states. The ICC is for people. Why have you not, for example, issued arrest warrants to the Ayatollah or for the head of the IRGC or whatever it is, right? But they can't do that because Iran is not signed up to the Rome Statute, and neither is Israel. The reason why ICC has jurisdiction over sending out these arrest warrants to Gallant and Netanyahu is because Palestine is.
Yes.
And their attacks have happened in a state or in an area that is signed up to the Rome Statute. Neither Iran nor Israel is a signatory to the Rome Statute, so they have no jurisdiction to arrest anybody or to have any prosecution to people in Iran.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Silver River, for becoming a member, and thank you, Katie, who says, another reason to bin the House of Lords. Quite so. As if another reason were even needed. He told the prosecutor he would, quote, lose the dressing room, unquote, which is a very silly football phrase, but there we go. And be seen by many states, including the US, as, quote, losing the plot. That's the US, who has many of its major cities currently on fire.
Literally ruled over by a reality TV star. Like, if you don't mind, David, I couldn't give a shit about what the US does or thinks about anything.
Yeah. Cameron further said that the ICC, if the ICC issued the warrants, the UK would be, quote, required to arrest Netanyahu if he travelled to the country. Yes, I think he might be aware of that, given that that's literally what he is asking you to do. That's literally the point of that, is that you, as a member of the Rome Statute, are required to execute that arrest warrant, should those people turn up in your jurisdiction. Yes. Why are you telling him that? Like that's a thing that needed to be said. Well, anyway, I mean, technically, it's the only thing he's been right about so far. So let's give him half a point, I guess. Khan told Cameron that his office had engaged with Israel for the past 3 years, but it had, quote, not resulted in any meaningful exchange of material relevant to the investigations, unquote. According to MEE's source, the Foreign Secretary spoke aggressively and repeatedly shouted over Khan, who had to be asked to be able to complete his points. Oh my god, he literally fucking internet bloodsported him. He rabbled all over him.
I mean, this is literally why I would describe it as a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Somebody's reasonably asking you to arrest people who have committed war crimes that have been fucking broadcast to the world, right? We've all seen the war crimes, and he's asking you to arrest these people because that's what international law states, and you throw a temper tantrum and scream at them over the phone.
Yeah, embarrassing shit. The prosecutor noted that his office was investigating crimes committed by Hamas as well as Israel, but Cameron said that this was drawing a moral equivalence between the two.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
good. They should.
Because, obviously, they're both doing war crimes. The war crime man is going to investigate the war crimes on the both sides of the war crimey crimes. Yes. He stated again that the UK would withdraw from the Rome Statute. Khan replied that, quote, if this were to occur, then he would have to accept that the rules-based system would be dead, unquote. Cameron insisted that, quote, the world is not ready for this, unquote. He told Khan he was, quote, on the brink of making a huge mistake. You sometimes need to take a step back and consider things. But Khan refused to back down and continued defending his position because
it's incredible.
He has balls of steel.
It's incredible for Cameron to try and say that the world isn't ready to not accept that the rules-based system would be dead, right?
Yeah.
Like, no. That's what you're trying to say. You're trying to kill the rules-based order. The world isn't ready, as far as I am concerned, for just continual levels of a free pass being given to things that we are all seeing happen in front of our eyes. That's it, right? David Cameron is specifically saying, no, you have to kill the rules-based order. The world isn't ready for it. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. He said there was a serious risk that many in the world would view the rules-based order as not being applied equally. Khan thanked the Foreign Secretary for his call, and the conversation ended without the two reaching any resolution. And by the way, Khan, clearly the most polite man on earth, because I'd have just told him to go fuck himself, but, that's just me. Approached by MEE for a response to the exchange, with Cameron, Khan said, I have no comment to make at this time. The British Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office declined to comment. MEE has asked Cameron for comment. When Khan announced he was applying for the warrants on the 20th of May, Cameron publicly called the decision a mistake and accused the ICC of drawing a moral equivalence between Israel and Hamas leaders.
What's interesting as well is that I think what is so telling from the conversation, what's so telling about the conversation between these people is specifically David Cameron just saying, well, we can do this for Israel. We can do this for Russia, but we can't do it for Israel.
Yeah.
Right? It's such a massive admission that, not only is this being done incredibly underhandedly, right? It shows that actually this isn't being done out of malice, really. It's not being done maliciously, I think, right? Because you can clearly, he's very angry about this. They're lost in the source.
Yeah.
They really are lost in the source, right? They genuinely, fully are entirely sold on this idea that Israel gets a free pass that Russia shouldn't get, and that actually anyone who undermines that is the one who's in the wrong, right? You can't be this kind of fervent in your defense of this whilst not understanding and seeing the obvious glaring hypocrisy unless you're just ideologically committed, which I think is really, really telling here, because it would have been a lot calmer and a lot more matter of fact if it was about the idea, well, the West and the East are different here. No, he genuinely is fucking absolutely furious at the idea that there would be an equivalence between Russia and Israel in this position.
Yeah, mad shit. Where are we? He claimed that, quote, no one, I think, has been tougher on the Israelis than me in direct call after call and message after message about having to meet their obligations, unquote. I mean, that says it all, if you genuinely think that's true, David, because you weren't tough on them at all in any way. So, like, yeah, like if you were the most tough, I mean, to say you're treating them with kid gloves, would be an understatement, I feel.
This was the same guy who, in the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, when being questioned by the chair, Alicia Kearns, at the time, said, first of all, that he didn't know whether or not the Gaza Strip were counted as being occupied under international laws, right? He's not just evil, he's also stupid, right?
Yes, yeah.
And on top of that, couldn't at any point, quote unquote, recollect whether any paper had passed his desk saying that he'd been given notice by the civil service that they would have to stop Israeli weapon shipments and cancel those licenses of arms being sold to Israel because there was a risk of them being used to break international law that literally everyone on the planet knew that there was at the time, right?
Yep.
When, of course, we now know from internal leaked documents and from leaked audio from Alicia Kearns that they had already been given this notice by people that there was a risk that these weapons would be used to facilitate war crimes, and David Cameron did fucking nothing, right? He is totally complicit. He is totally 100% complicit in this, and I do not believe for a second that he just forgot about those papers that passed across his desk. I am fully of the opinion that he saw those things, he saw those same information that was seen by Alicia Kearns, that was seen by the civil service, that those Israeli weapons shipments and those arms licenses should be cancelled because of it would leave our government at risk of being complicit in the facilitation of war crimes, and fucking ignored it. I'm firmly of that belief.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm of no doubt whatsoever that that's the case. Yeah, absolutely. On the 10th of June, the Conservative government filed an objection to Khan's application to the ICC, arguing that the court did not have jurisdiction over Israeli nationals, a position the Israeli government has held for years, and a position that the British government previously had never held. But okay.
I mean, it depends, and it entirely depends on where the crimes are committed, right?
Exactly, yeah. But you have a jurisdiction over every single person in a jurisdiction that falls under the ICC, yes.
Exactly.
So an
they
American,
the crimes in...
a theory, America isn't signed up to it, but if an American committed a crime in Britain, for instance, then it would have jurisdiction over those individuals, yes.
Exactly.
Even if, in arresting them, America would then invade the Netherlands to get those people back, which, by the way, would definitely happen. Where were we? The next month, Keir Starmer's newly elected Labour government announced it would drop the objection because it's anti-Semitic. I've added a little bit on the end there. We're very clear about the importance of the rule of law and independence of the court both domestically and internationally, a spokesperson for Starmer said. Palestine was accepted into the ICC in 2015, and in 2021 the court said it had the power to investigate war crimes in the occupied territories. Sources...
As they should.
Well, indeed.
And that's the thing, right? Is that the reason why Israel would object to that is what they would say as well. Palestine isn't a state; we don't recognise it. Therefore, it can't be party to the ICC because it's not a state, and therefore you don't have any jurisdiction. When, of course, the UN recognises Palestine. Half the countries in the world recognise Palestine.
Yeah.
Also, again, a very, very funny comparison to make here. This is David Cameron essentially saying that he has even more contempt for international law than a man who went onto the radio live to say Israel has the right to commit war crimes, right?
Yes.
That's how far gone David Cameron is.
Although at least there is one area in which a right-wing politician is to the right of the current Labour government, so that's nice. Anyway, sources can't...
Also, sorry to interrupt you again, but just on that point of saying, well, there is someone who is now a Conservative who's to the right of the Labour government, is that, well, David Cameron was always the most right-wing person who had been in a high-up position in the Conservative Party since 2010. He had this kind of public persona as being like a liberal Tory.
Oh, right? All that hugger hoodie bullshit, yeah.
Exactly. Like, he was always seen as a liberal Tory, when in reality his policy prospectus was the most right-wing of any of the leaders on both fiscal policy, on internal policy, like the go-home vans, the hostile environment. That's Cameron-era government,
Yep.
you know? So they were clearly the least liberal. They were the most kind of hawkish on terms of economic policy, and you see the results. I mean, you look at what they were wanting to do, what even the opposition wouldn't do in things like Syria and in Libya.
They bombed Syria and Libya as well, turning both of those into basically failed states. Yeah.
Exactly. So on foreign policy, on domestic policy, on economic policy, on everything, they were the most right-wing government. They're just monsters. Like, they were just the worst government this
But
country's ever had.
thankfully, Hillary Benn stepped in, and oh no, he supported it all. Oh no,
Hillary Benn.
never letting you forget that, you little prick. Honestly, we could if we could get a dynamo into the grave of Tony Benn, I think we could power the entire nation from his corpse turning over and over his son and his terrible record in Parliament.
Literally. I mean, what's interesting as well is that Ed Miliband whipping MPs to vote against the first set of Syria strikes was cited by Barack Obama as something that stopped intervention in Syria in its tracks at the time, right? It shows you how far we've fallen in terms of the Labour Party's approach to international politics. That, like, Ed Miliband, I can't remember the cabinet, his leadership is so far removed from how Starmer is approaching things like international conflict at this point in time, right?
Yeah.
It's really, because so many people try and say, oh, well, lefties, they refuse to appreciate the current Starmer government. They're just middle of the road, centre left, doing that. They're not too far removed from what you say that you want. I'm like, no, they clearly fucking are, right?
Massively
The gulf
so,
between the gulf between the politics of Miliband era Labour and the politics of Starmer era Labour, they're fucking oceans apart, right? They're oceans apart from each other. And so people try to think that the people who are angry with Starmer are just like bitter Corbynites. I mean, there are plenty of like soft left, long-term Labour voters who are fully in support of Ed Miliband, who voted throughout the Blair years, who find Starmer's government beyond the fucking pale. It's not just a bunch of Trotskyists who are mad that we're not implementing full communism. It's the fact that Starmer is just a monster. He's just a total, honest-to-God monster.
Yep.
Well, apparently not as much as David Cameron.
Indeed. Can I go?
Yes.
Are you going to interrupt again? Sources Khan spoke to in the hours following his phone call with Cameron told MEE he seemed surprised and upset by the exchange. Quote, I don't like being pressured, Khan said, according to sources present at the time. Quote, I won't say if it rises to blackmail, I don't like being threatened. Well, it absolutely is blackmail. It's, nice international agreement, shame if one of the major players in it pulled out, It's mafiosi, like fucking. If you do this, we will do this. It's a direct threat. It's blackmail. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Look, he's literally saying in that bit about the rules-based order stuff. Like the world isn't ready for this. In other words, don't make us destroy the rules-based order in order to protect Israel. Just don't do the arrest warrants, basically.
Yep.
Which is pretty grotesque. Khan added that the sentiment is not unexpected. Okay. The gall of articulating it is so bluntly and candidly, I think, was a surprise and a disappointment. Countries that you love, that deserve better. How on earth can leaders that have held such high office, that are so well known, think you can get away with that? Because he went to Eton and Oxford, he thinks he can get away with fucking anything, including pigs.
When he's gotten away with literally everything ever for the entirety of his adult life.
Yeah.
And probably during as a kid as well, right? He's been mummy's special little boy, having been given a gilded education, both at private school and at University of Oxford, be just kind of floating on like a magic carpet of the easiest possible ride through life anyone can get, being essentially felt like he had a divine right to rule as both a Conservative MP and then as Prime Minister, right? Never had a real trouble in his life, gets into government, like implements policies that kill hundreds of thousands of members of his own country, and then just fucking swans off into irrelevance and then lobbies for his fucking financial institutions in the background directly with the Chancellor of the Exchequer on fucking WhatsApp.
I was about to say, the one time he ever faced any hardship, he lost a referendum, he instantly went, oh, fuck this, and left.
No consequences. Not a single consequences have ever befallen David Cameron for the absolute fucking wreck of the country that has been left in the wake of his failed leadership. You know, like, and at no point and then he has the gall, after all of that, to do like fucking Twitter photo ops in food banks that are a result of the societal collapse that he created. He is patient zero for every single problem in the modern era of politics, right? And going there going, look at me, I'm helping. And I'm just like, genuinely.
Get in the fucking trebuchet, motherfucker.
Absolutely, just immediate, straight to Tesco Gulag, do not pass go, do not collect your £150,000 a year fucking severance pay that he gets for having previously been Prime Minister. What a cunt.
True. The British prosecutor added that if you do that to a director of public prosecutions, it would be a criminal offence, potentially. He said he was, quote, disappointed that a country like that and leaders that are so senior would debase themselves and their nation.
True.
Very true. They are so they have no right to debase a nation. They're debasing something they have no right to debase, which is a people.
Strong words and great words. You know?
Honestly, get a wheelbarrow for this bloke to carry his bollocks around in. Absolutely amazing stuff. Sunak's government firmly supported Israel's war on Gaza and consistently resisted calls to restrict arms sales to Israel. In a session of Parliament, Foreign Affairs Secretary Select Committee, Jesus Christ, I'll start that sentence again, that was awful. In a session of Parliament's Foreign Affairs Select Committee in January 2024, its chair, Alicia Kearns, a Conservative MP, asked Cameron whether, quote, you have never had a piece of paper in front of you by a Foreign Office lawyer that says that Israel is in breach of international humanitarian commitments under international humanitarian law. Cameron replied that, quote, I cannot recall every single bit of paper that has been put in front of me. I don't want to answer that question, unquote.
Bullshit! Total bullshit. We know, it's obvious that he's lying. It's obvious, right, in my opinion.
Yeah, you might not want to answer the question, but did you threaten to overrule him? He added that, quote, if you're asking me whether I am worried that Israel has taken action that might be in breach of international law, yes, of course I'm worried about that. You didn't seem very worried when you were screaming at the bloke trying to stop that.
Yeah, not too worried enough to, I don't know, suspend literally any arms licenses, right? Because again, right, the point on international humanitarian law and whether or not that you have a legal obligation to stop those licenses isn't about whether you know that it's been in breach of it. It's if you think that there's a risk, right? Yeah. You saying, I am worried about that, clearly identifies that you think there might even be a slightest risk. So stop the fucking arms. Yep. Stop the arms licenses.
In March, The Guardian reported that Kearns said she believed the government had received advice from its own lawyers saying Israel had breached international law in Gaza. Quote, I remain convinced that the government has completed its updated assessment on whether Israel is demonstrating a commitment to international humanitarian law and that it is concluded that Israel is not demonstrating this commitment, which is the legal determination it has to make. Kearns said at a fundraising event on the 13th of March. That is a weird fundraising speech.
Like a baby otter.
Just saying, like, that's okay.
To be fair, Alicia Kearns has basically always been pro-Palestine. She's one of the more kind of fervent, like, Foreign Office pro-Palestine MPs, or was at the time, right? In being, well, not in the Foreign Office, right, but being a chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, she was intimately involved in parliamentary scrutiny of foreign policy, and she's always been very, very pro-Palestine. It's why she roasted David Cameron pretty hard. So it was the same one. There's the same committee where he couldn't state whether or not he believed Gaza Strip was occupied under international law, which of course it is. And you'd think, well, if you're being appointed as the Foreign Secretary and you don't know this, what the fuck are you doing in your job?
Well, this was not remotely uncommon in Conservative cabinet members, because of course, Nadine Dorries, as the Culture, Media and Sport didn't know who funded and paid for Channel 4, the station she was trying to privatise.
And thought tennis was played on pitches.
Yeah, so, you know, it's, again, Conservative government ministers and not reading their brief, go hand in hand, it seems.
Yeah, name a more iconic duo.
True. The Labour government, elected in July, imposed a partial arms embargo on Israel that September, and suspended free trade agreement talks with the country last month. Although, of course, the trade envoy to Israel did go to Israel, so in what way is that trade talk suspended? Did he specifically never talk about trade whilst he was there? Because I doubt that's true.
Also, like, partial arms embargo, like 8% arms embargo. It's like saying it's like saying I'm a partial vegetarian because 92% of the food I eat is vegan. Like,
yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Speaking during Prime Minister's questions last week, Starmer described Israel's actions in Gaza as appalling, counterproductive, and intolerable, unquote. Although he does appear to be rather easily tolerating them. But anyway. And so the government would keep looking at further action, including sanctions. Bullshit.
What's interesting I really want somebody to press this in the media or in the chamber and specifically ask, okay, we accept that you've described the situation in Gaza as intolerable. Where was the point of inflection? Where did it stop being tolerable and start becoming intolerable? How many Palestinians had died? What was the point where
Well,
you thought, oh, that's enough infanticide now? You've had your fun with the
we
infanticide.
need to
Now
get
I can't tolerate it.
we need to get Bassem Youssef on the case. Get him to Downing Street. What's the ratio of sons of bitches? How many sons of bitches before you decided it was intolerable? Anyway, where were we? But it has stopped short of accusing Israel of breaking international law in Gaza. Again, time out. Something it's never had any problem doing with Russia.
Yep.
Now, again, I think they're right. I think Russia have broken international law. I think they can be credibly accused of committing genocide in parts of eastern Ukraine. But the fact that the British government and the American government and basically every motherfucker has accused Russia of that, but everyone has to tiptoe nicey-nicey around the obvious genocide that Israel is committing is a bit of an obvious double standard, which does take some explaining, does it not? Anyway, after the ICC issued the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant in November, the government refused to explicitly confirm it would arrest the politicians if they came to the country, although a spokesperson for Starmer said the government would, quote, fulfill its legal obligations, unquote. Other Israeli officials who are not subject to arrest warrants have since visited the UK, to the UK's eternal disgrace.
Literally. Inviting people like Zippy Ottavelli to just do fucking propaganda for genocide on LBC. It's great fun. Or allowing Aviv Kohavi, former IDF general, to go around and lobby the BBC and The Guardian, right? Kat Viner, according to Declassified, right? Their information apparently had a meeting with Aviv Kohavi for him to essentially give her the Hasbro lines for them to use.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, Will Jackdorf, with 5 memberships. Much love to you, friend. Where are we? In April, MEE reported that Foreign Minister Gideon Saar made a secret trip to London and met British Foreign Secretary and certifiable spineless wankface David Lammy. Again, I've slightly editorialised there. After the report, the Attorney General's office confirmed to MEE that it had blocked an arrest warrant request made to the Metropolitan Police by legal groups alleging Saar had aided and abetted breaches of international law in Gaza. Khan is currently on leave after attempts to suspend him failed. Taking the L there, lads. And pending a UN investigation into alleged allegations of sexual misconduct towards a colleague. He denies the allegations, which have not been referred to Dutch police. In 2022, the Russian Federation issued a warrant for Khan's arrest in response to ICC warrants issued against Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Minister for Children. Which is
that's the kind of the key kind of crux of the genocide claims against Russia is the transportation of children out of Ukraine into Russia, which is fucking insane, right? I don't know if you saw. Did you see Rob Cowlan from Byline TV debating this fucking Greek, or this debating this Cypriot member of the European Parliament? Where Phidias, guy called Phidias, who's a fucking YouTuber, he's a YouTuber, a member of the European Parliament, essentially saying, oh, well, some of the kids wanted to go to Russia. It's crazy stuff, right?
Right, and that's how that works. If a kid just wants to go to a place, the government of foreign nations just gets to take them there. Yeah, that's a very sensible.
Yeah, like the kids,
world.
it's fine. It's fine that Russia are transporting children out of Ukraine and trying to turn them Russian because some of the kids wanted to be kidnapped.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? What kind of basis for anything is that? Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. It's just so obvious, really, that Phidias has been bought out by Russian interests.
Yeah. Speaking about being bought out by Russian interests, did you see that, along with Alexander Dugin and Elon Musk's dad and Alex Jones, at an event in Russia in a couple of weeks, we'll be speaking one former Right and Honourable George Galloway.
Oh, fucking hell! I'm shocked.
Flabbergasted.
My flabber has been gasted. It really has.
Quite so. Where were we? Did it have to report international law? Dutch police.
As of February.
As of February, Khan has also been sanctioned by US President Donald Trump because of the arrest warrants issued for Netanyahu and Gallant. Because again, Donald Trump is Israel's bitch.
It's so funny to me how he was kind of in control in his first term, right? He was kind of in control of policy because he was kind of the rogue outsider who'd won despite the opposition within the Republicans. But since the whole of the Republican Party has become MAGA, right, it's been part of the Trump cult. And now that he's no longer on the outside looking in, he is now a whole part of the inside group, right? He actually has no power anymore. He's just entirely been controlled by outside forces, whether it's Netanyahu or Besson or Scott Miller is the other one,
Scott
or
Miller.
people like Marco Rubio, right? Like Trump has no power anymore. He's just a fucking Jar Jar Binks puppet in the hands of the Darth Sidious evil empire of the Republican Party behind him.
Yeah. Yes. He has had his US visa revoked, and his wife and children have been banned from travelling to the US. His bank accounts have been frozen in the UK.
What?
What the fuck?
Wait a
Isn't he a UK citizen?
How many? Maybe that's a miss.
It says his bank accounts have been frozen in the UK. Wow.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look and see if
That's fucking... What? That has to be illegal. He's a UK citizen, and he's committed, as far as we're aware, no crime of any nature whatsoever. So what the fuck is what's the right there? He's being treated as badly as fucking Roman Abramovich.
have they been frozen for use in the US because of the Trump sanctions, or is the UK such a massive, gigantic cuckboy bitch to the United States Department, to the US State Department, that they've just frozen his bank accounts because Daddy Trump told them to?
It's very possible. Well, we need a free trade agreement. 25% on steel. I have no idea. That's embarrassing, though, isn't it?
What's going on here? Right. This is from Associated Press. From Microsoft, for example, cancelled Khan's email address, forcing the prosecutor to move to Proton Mail, a Swiss email provider. His bank accounts in his home country of the UK have been blocked. Yeah.
Fucking hell, we are pathetic. That's embarrassing. Oh my god, that's pathetic. Shameful. Genuinely shameful.
I fucking hate this. I hate this country so much.
So shit.
I fucking hate it.
The warrants for Israeli leaders are currently in the hands of 2 deputy prosecutors. Last Thursday, the US imposed further sanctions on 4 ICC judges whom it accused of being involved in, quote, illegitimate actions targeting the United States and Israel, unquote. Neither the US nor Israel are party to the Rome Statute and have long rejected the authority of the court. In the statement, the ICC said it deplored the sanctions against Khan and the 4 judges. It said it stood fully behind its personnel and would continue to work undeterred. Quote, these measures are a clear attempt to undermine the independence of an international judicial institution, which operates under the mandate from 125 state parties from all corners of the globe, it said. The court recently ordered that any further warrants issued in relation to Palestinian investigation cannot be publicised. Well, there you go.
Just a whole cavalcade of bastards, from Cameron to Starmer to Lammy to Trump to everyone. Just a whole fucking rogues gallery of all of the worst people in the world.
Although, one source of hope is that David Cameron is starting to look quite old now, so hopefully he'll be dead soon.
Fingers crossed, eh?
You know? The shininess of skin has dulled, and that's good.
Just like, has David Cameron done anything good in his whole life? Can we actually point to any successes of David Cameron as a human being?
Can we point to any successes of David Cameron? No.
Nope.
No, not really.
Like, even his only good piece of legislation, which was the Equal Marriage Act, only passed because Labour votes voted for it. Like, more Labour MPs voted for the Tory motion than Tory MPs, although that was David Cameron. So maybe you can say that he tabled the bill as Prime Minister, so well, I'll give him that. But even then, he couldn't even convince his own Conservative MPs to support it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm not sure he's ever done anything, in all honesty, of any real worth or positivity.
Well, at least he might do one good thing, which is rot in a cell in The Hague for the rest of his life, if any justice is done.
Let's hope. Either that or, well, either way, the seventh circle of hell awaits him. But that may take a little while, so hopefully the ICC get him first.
Fingers crossed, chat. We can but dream.
Shall we get on with a little bit of award-winning journalism.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Unbelievable stuff. Can't wait. You'll be glad to hear that for once they've got some Reform Party representation, so they're not going to be silent on this. That's good. For too long, the Reform Party can't get a word in edgeways, but thankfully one of their MPs is on the show, so that's good.
What I will say though is at least on their panel they don't have a business bellend for the first time, right?
Well, they do have a Reform MP.
Like, you weren't here last week when we watched it, but last week they had a fucking, like, a jeweller from Knightsbridge on the programme, the poshest wank you've ever fucking seen in your life, lamenting the idea that the UK government can't just cut rather than tax wealthy people. Just, honestly, they were a real weapon.
I was annoyed I didn't get to do Question Time this week, just because it was from Llandudno, a place where I could have told you the story of me sleeping rough in Llandudno, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's gone.
I think you did let us know the story before. I think I have been aware of your story of Llandudno. I think you mentioned Llandudno when when it was announced that was where it was on the Question Time the previous week. To be fair, I don't know. It wasn't a hugely great Question Time. There were two questions that I just didn't care about. Like one of yet another thing about irregular migration, which we've banged on about fucking 1,000 times.
But we never talk about it. It's impossible to talk about immigration ever in Britain.
Yeah, so that was tedious. Then there was the last. I don't remember what the last question was. Something that I didn't care about and skipped. We only watched two questions when we watched it. One of them was a pretty good one where Mark Savotka just kind of tore into Labour being shit. And the other question, I literally just spent 40 minutes watching it. It was about 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. I had no input other than just saying I hate motorists every 5 minutes. Which,
that's
fair. But, like,
no problem.
It wasn't exactly riveting content.
Anyway, let's get on to this robot dickhead. Although, which one am I talking about? Really?
Money talks. So what will the government's big spending plans this week tell us? Rachel Reeves' wallet has been wide open this week. Promises of long-term spending of tens and tens of billions of pounds. But where is the short-term pain to pay? The Cabinet Minister here to account for the government and himself will be talking to us about that. And he's no stranger to the odd bit of criticism in this studio, you might remember.
I don't know who the tech minister is. What's his name?
Peter Kyle.
Yeah, well, he's a bit of a moron. Sorry.
I'm sure that Sir Elton was only teasing.
It didn't take you long before you were playing that.
Tech Secretary Peter Kyle is here alongside Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary.
Who honestly, look, I'm not saying he is as right-wing as this, but put him in a Nazi uniform and he'd look perfect.
I mean, he literally does have like Hitler-Jugend vibes, doesn't he?
Yeah, under Sturmbannführer Philps.
For the Conservatives, I do have to ask, I just wonder what went through your mind when you heard that.
Oh, I'm a profound dyslexic. The first person who called me a moron was a teacher in a classroom when I was a kid, when she was trying to ask me to read Shakespeare. So I've gone through my whole life being called these things and focusing on what my job is.
Wow.
Oh, come on.
He managed to sound more pathetic than I thought it would be. He could have just said, I laughed. Hey, I thought it was funny. But he's now like, I was a dyslexic, so actually you're being very ableist,
No, you can't bully me for ruining the lives of musicians and selling out the creative industry to fucking AI slop content generators. No, what you're actually doing is very mean to me because I was bullied as a child. I'm just like, yeah, you can't just take that out on the creative industries, Peter, in service to your fucking AI overlords. Fuck off.
Okay, but I can't help but feel that he wasn't bullied enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly.
Both
of these men deserve to be bullied an infinite amount more than they actually have been.
Back then it was trying to learn how to learn. Now it's trying to deliver for creatives and AI sector and the future of our economy.
No, you're not. You're not trying to deliver for creatives. You're doing the opposite of delivering for creatives by specifically selling out their content to AI fucking slot machines.
Did you see the amazing claim from Sir Keir today about he wants... Oh, what was the exact number? Hang on. I definitely did bookmark this. Don't even fucking start with me, you fucking Twitter, you bollocks. Hang on a minute. He came up with an amazing stat, and it's just so obviously fucking bullshit. About the number of people he wants to train in AI. Where is it? Come on. He wants... It's some absurd number. It's in the millions anyway. And it was like someone worked out it was something like 1 in 5 of the working population he wants to train to be in AI.
20% of the adults in Britain were going to do the biggest training program. Like, what's frustrating is if they had like a normal proposal for training, I'd be like, brilliant. train some people, do some things, invest in your population. Great. This country has been bereft of training and investment in the population for a very, very long time. And then he comes out with fucking preposterous shit like, we're going to turn 20% of the country into AI fucking drones.
Yeah. Oh, I can't find the exact... Is that the one? Hang on.
Where's Peter Man?
No, I can't find it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, he wants about 1 in 5 people. And like that's just not feasible or anything. Like, I don't think AI is going to achieve much, if of anything at all. But there apparently in some minor medical ways it might help and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. So train some people. But 1 in 5? Are you taking the piss? Well, at the height of any industry in Britain, we've never employed anyone in a single... 1 in 5 people in any single industry ever. This isn't going to happen.
Politics can be a rough business. So, Chris, I'm duty-bound to ask, what's the rudest thing that anybody's ever said about you as a politician?
That's not
Oh,
broadcastable.
goodness me. I mean, I remember when I first ran for Parliament in Hampstead.
Oh, I was going to say, he said first round final. It's like, clearly, if he doesn't say something that was said by Helena or Kev on stream, he's clearly missed out, right?
Yeah,
he's not had the full gamut of mean things that people have said about him.
True.
In Kilburn, I was heckled very badly at a hustings back in 2010, but I can't remember the precise insult.
Okay, I'll up it. I hope you get anal prolapse and then you shit yourself in public and you fucking fucking die in a terrible, awful way at the age of something. You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. I hope you fucking suffer enormously in your life. You absolute fucking arsehole. Fuck you!
That's one up that.
Is that better? I mean, I wasn't there at that meeting in 2010, so I'm not sure, but I think I might have.
But it was pretty bad.
OK, well, thank you both for your good humour. We'll be talking to you both later in the programme. After.
Oh, yeah, you should have just said, yeah, the worst thing ever was someone said I ran through a field of wheat. That would have been a funny little jab. That would have been funny. That would have been good, but he's such a wanker, such a pointless, pathetic, useless wanker! Sorry, I need to... Honestly, I didn't realise I had this primal energy within me. Good Lord.
The shenanigans of the past 24 hours, Reform Deputy Leader Richard Tice will be here too. And
yeah, fucking Zia Yusuf, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, in, out, shake it all about. The fuck's going on with that lad?
The Lib Dems described him as playing musical chairman, and I'm just like, you're not allowed to be funny.
No.
You're not allowed to stop it, Liberal Democrats. You're not allowed to make good puns.
No.
there's another megastar with a blunt message.
Whoa. Stop whining.
How are you alive? How? Arnold Schwarzenegger, how are you alive? You were roided up in the 60s, mate. You should be dead. Why are you here? Still my favourite thing ever. And I think it might be my favourite political moment ever. When he was running for governor of California and described his opponent as an economic sissy man.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah. Also, to be fair, he's 77. He's not looking bad for 77.
No, he's looking exceptionally good, which, like I say, is strange because he should be dead. He should be dead.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I sat down with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, to find out why he's back. And our team at the desk today is the former Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt.
Oh my God. How are you not fucking dead? He's wearing jeans, the cunt. Oh, mate. Have a fucking word with yourself. Sorry. I just need to... It's a lot of anger today. I apologise, chap.
I mean, to be fair, I was fucking furious reading that article earlier today from Middle East Eye. Yeah,
that is. Yeah, it leaves a sour taste.
Can and historian Dan Snow. Morning. Let's start, as we always do, by what's making the news. And there's a real pick and mix in the headlines this morning. The Sunday Telegraph splashes on the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, saying bosses should be able to stop employees wearing...
OK, firstly, Kemi, is there a bandwagon you won't jump on? Like, literally embarrassing. But Even then, she still has to do it in the shittest way that is bound to provide no support from anywhere. Because the people who want this want a total ban everywhere, right? All the normal people are like, don't ban it anywhere. And she's gone, no, I won't do either of those things. I'll play both sides so both sides hate me. I'll just let bosses decide whether you can ban a piece of clothing. Who the fuck wants that policy?
Yeah, it's just there's just no room for the Conservative Party's politics here because every issue is so kind of polarized now.
Yeah.
That you're essentially in the position where if you take the light road, then people are just going to defect to the people who are actually giving the issue the support that the people who like it want to see, and everyone on the other side will just call you a fucking racist because she is, right?
Yeah. Like, it doesn't... Again, everything she does is the shittest thing it can be. And I love her for it, thank you.
What's funny is that you obviously her line is that she's not going to have policies, right? Why do you think she's just fucking evaporating into the background, being the official leader of the opposition, just getting zero coverage? You know.
Yeah.
What's interesting is we watched Zia Yusuf on Sky the other day. It was last week actually, and we were looking at they clip out from the Trevor Phillips show on Sky. They clip out each individual interview as well as publishing the whole thing in full, kind of like Novara do with Novara Live.
Yeah.
And the 3 segments were someone from the government, someone from Zia Yusuf from Reform UK, and Robert Jenrick. And this was Robert Jenrick talking about his viral video. We've got like 18 million or so views, right? It went super mega viral. It was the talk of the town, right? And still, after all of that viral content, no one watched the clip of Robert Jenrick being spoken to by Trevor Phillips. Because everyone watched the thing from the government and the thing from Reform. It's over.
Yeah, no one
over.
gives a fuck, mate. No one cares. Like, to the point where I saw someone was going on about how James Cleverly was the only man who could save the Tory party. And then someone pointed out to him, on the current polling, he would lose his own seat by about 12 points.
Yep.
There is no saving the Conservative Party. It is dead. It is over.
I think that the only avenue for them to not be put into electoral oblivion is Boris Johnson, and just purely on the grounds that he just has a latent level of support for who he is, and second of all, he's just like the person in the Tory party who fucking of all of the things seems the most like a human being. It's crazy to think of that he's the most like human out of all of them.
Yeah, and that it's like, you know, being the tallest dwarf or something. Yeah.
Well, I guess she's not robotic, you know.
Well, exactly, yeah, and like he would get a amount of press coverage, even if some of that press coverage is bad. At least you're being talked about. The old line about was it the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about, and that's a certain sort of truth to that. It is a clout economy after all, and that motherfucker hoovers up clout. Whereas,
exactly. It's why people. It's why I can't take people seriously. Say, "Well, Zach Polanski will never succeed because of the hypno boob moment." I'm just like, it's press coverage, you know?
Yeah, it's press coverage. Motherfucker, no one knows who most of the Green Party MPs are, and that's a shame. They should know who they are. I think they're probably decent people, and much better than the vast majority of MPs. But you've got to get your fucking face out there. You've got to know who you are. Nigel Farage has not gotten to where he has by diligently doing documents about policies and stuff. No, he's a clout goblin. He chews up the clout and spits it out, and he doesn't care if it's bad coverage either. He'll just go with it. In fact, he can now, because of this whole like fake news, lamestream media shit, you can turn bad press coverage into good, positive support from your base. Because this is just further evidence that the lamestream media, the liberal wokerati, are after him. You know?
Yeah, and you can do it and you can obviously do that from the left too, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
as soon as you get negative press cofefe, you can immediately turn around and say, "What if the fucking bourgeois capitalist press are trying to destroy a socialist with smears of anti-Semitism?"
Yeah.
Like, and or the case of Zach Polanski, right? This guy, like I guess you could like if you want to win over right wingers, you just say something like the woke cancel culture liberal elite media are trying to cancel big tits.
True.
What do the prudes in the mainstream press have against big tits? I would like to know.
Exactly. What is this anti-natural mummy milkers position from the press? What are they doing? Nefarious is what it is.
the burqa at work. There are lots of different snippets about the spending review. The Sunday Times creates a magic money tree for Rachel Reeves. The Sunday People says the minister with us this morning, Peter Kyle, wants something like an app cap, limits for kids on access to social media. We'll talk about that later.
I'd invest in VPN stocks then, lads, because it's about to fucking get through the roof.
The Independent publishes its Pride list today, featuring Victoria McLeod. You can see her on the top
Cannot
left
believe I've been snubbed again. Outrageous.
there. The former judge suing the government over the Supreme Court ruling on the definition of a woman. And there's a full interview on yesterday's newscast with her that's worth a listen. And the BBC's leading this morning on the riots in LA. Donald Trump, the American president, has deployed 2,000 of the National Guard to deal with protests.
There haven't been riots.
No.
There just haven't been riots. There were protests and some Waymos got set on fire, right? That's it. That's all that's happened.
And unsurprisingly, they were peaceful until the authorities turned up. What
And
a
even
surprise.
then, even after the authorities turned up, there wasn't even that much violence, right?
No.
There wasn't even that much violence at all. There were some clashes between law enforcement, right? But those are law enforcement clashes. Riots are when, apropos of nothing, people go around and cause damage for the sake of damage. There was no riots. There were some protests and some people blocked some immigration detention.
True. Have I got the thing? The most American image ever. Where is it? Oh, it's a line of coppers in riot gear in front of a donut shop. And it's the most American thing ever. What? I'm sure Twitter deletes my fucking bookmarks.
Clearly, they had seen the footage of the Greggs looters last year in Britain and thought, wait, they could come for they've come for the donut shops before. We have precedent for donut looting, right? We must protect the donuts.
Exactly. We must protect the donuts. True. No, I can't fucking find it. I hate the world. Honestly, I hate everything in the world ever.
There. The unrest's been in a predominantly Latino district and it was sparked by raids on undocumented migrants. So a big story unfolding there in the United States, but we'll concentrate on the United Kingdom this morning. A warm welcome to all three of you. A huge moment coming up for Rachel Reeves.
Also, when you say undocumented migrants, the Dewan or whatever his fucking name is, Haman, the head of the ICE thing, he was specifically asked whether all the people being arrested were illegal, and he specifically said that not all of them were.
And they've run out. They've literally run out. They have targets. Was it 1,200? Is it 1,200 deportations a day they need to get through? And they just run out of people who are here undocumented, and they're just like, oh, so I guess we'll just round up anybody with brown skin.
And the Liberals, being such fucking useless wankers, are now like, oh, because like you say, they can't meet their quotas. And so then now they're like, oh, see, they're failing on this. Joe Biden got rid of 600 million squillion gazillion people. And you're like, that's not a good thing. Why are you boasting about that? Like, that's a positive thing. You fucking mad. Oh, God.
And the thing is, when they were being oppositional to Trump, right? When there was huge, daily coverage of people like Senator Chris Hollins going fucking on his own, going down to El Salvador, risking being fucking assassinated, right?
Yeah.
To go and spend time with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and they were banging the drum over and over and over again about the absolutely inhumanity of these illegal deportations, right? And the people being sent to a fucking gulag in El Salvador, and the public perception of Trump on immigration was fucking in the toilet. Yeah. They were winning the argument of this with people's in the public consciousness over this, and then they just fucking stopped. It's like, oh no, like David Shaw says, the abundance liberals have said we need to look at the median position, and then they just gave up the narrative, and Trump's approval rating on immigration is fucking shot back up again. So stupid.
There you go. America's finest, defending the territory they really, really need. In case you wondered what really mattered to them, America.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Hunt, you've been the Chancellor sitting in number 11 a few days before a big moment like this.
And he's also the architect of the downfall of the NHS. Just in case anyone was wondering.
What's it like?
Well, are we allowed to feel sympathy for our political opponents in British politics? Because I do feel somewhat for Rachel Reeves. This is a nightmare for chancellors because pressure is coming at you left, right and centre. I remember when I was Chancellor walking through Westminster Tube and I saw a huge ad put up on one of the walls, and I realised there was only one person they wanted to see that ad. It was me. And this is what happens to chancellors. But I think when it comes to substance, the most interesting article is the editorial in the Sunday Times today, which says that without welfare reform, she will not get the sums to add up. And I am worried that Labour is backtracking on welfare reform.
Pause. This is not just the editorial in the Sunday Times that said this. He said this.
Yeah.
We read it on stream. The article was him, Mel Stride, and Nadeem Sahawi giving their ideas of what they would do as Chancellor. This is not just a fucking dispassionate piece by a journalist. You're quoting yourself.
Yeah.
And pretending that you're... This fucking, like Illuminati inception going on here. Quoting yourself and pretending you're not quoting about yourself rather than pretending you're not quoting other people.
No. Clearly, right, this is just from journalist Jeremy Junt of the Sunday Times, who has written a fine piece saying what a fantastic job that Jeremy Hunt did as Chancellor and how you should just do everything he did.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the editorial line by Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo.
No, from Guy Incognito, obviously.
Really hope they don't.
Coco Can, Labour is, though, saying they'll slow down welfare spending from the projections that it was meant to go up by. Where do you see the priorities being this week?
Well, I think we can take this as a statement of intent. And I, can't speak for every Labour voter, but certainly I think a lot of us voted Labour because we wanted change. We don't want more austerity and we want the vulnerable protected. So I think if they don't backtrack on some of this, these proposed welfare reforms, then they might see that they're losing more of their...
Well, yeah, apparently now she's saying that 75% of the pensioners are going to get the winter fuel payment, which is like better but still shit. And they're like, well, we finally want to put this to bed. So you've let it rumble on for a year. For what purpose? What good has this possibly done to anybody?
I mean, I actually think that the changes they've made are really good. I think that the way in which they have put the threshold out, the way they're clawing it back through taxation rather than having a cut-off that you have to apply for, right? No one falls through the cracks this way.
No,
they
it's better than it was, certainly,
right?
yeah.
They're literally doing what I told them to do fucking 8 months ago. 9 months ago, right? Yeah. Like, it's so funny to me that the Labour government have fucking briefed and changed position and said they would look at things and fun through the backlash, said they wouldn't, U-turn said that they would, and then all the way through the houses. And they've literally come to the position that I came to the night after this policy was announced.
Genius. Oh, the Starmer Politburo again.
I mean, the fact that they have now got the support of Martin Lewis on this shows you that basically they should just let me and Martin Lewis set policy.
Yeah, just let Martin Lewis run the country. I think we'd actually be in a better place.
He'd be the only person who would have a positive approval rating.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Like, people, he could actually quote unquote make difficult decisions, and people would trust him.
Yeah, he literally can't be worse than Mossad McSweeney. He can't be.
Their votership. Very difficult dilemmas all over the place because, public money is tight, even though it has been going up. And we think overall, Dan, that money will continue to go up by by a significant amount. But the government's already shifted a lot of extra cash into defence. We can see their priorities are changing, aren't they?
They are. And I think it's, unfashionably, I think I'm going to say I feel very sorry for politicians, full stop. I mean, we are dealing with these enormous challenges. Demographically, aging population, all of those things. Population expect things, rightly, welfare.
Okay, did anyone make them do this? Did anyone put a gun to their head and say, become a politician? No. You've had to have made a very long series of deliberate positive and negative decisions to get to this position. If you didn't want to do it, you can step away at any time.
Yeah, but please let somebody who actually cares.
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for you. No. Not at all. You are a fucking employee of mine, as far as I'm concerned. And you will do your fucking job or you will leave.
It's a fucking incredible clip from 2010, right? 15 years ago. Someone in the Question Time audience saying, like, fucking, it's a disgrace that you just refuse to answer questions. You're making a mockery of the whole process. Like, you forget that you work for us. We pay for you. You're here to represent us, right? And it's a damning indictment on politics that you refuse to answer our questions, Yeah. And this was in response to the fact that the Tories kept saying, we have no plans to raise VAT in the run-up to the 2010 election, who then got into government. And of course they fucking raised VAT.
Of course they did.
Of course they raised VAT. austerity. It's just like Rachel Reeves and West Streeting saying things like, well, we have no plans in our manifesto that require tax rises, and they get into government and then raise taxes. And then, of course, there's a massive backlash when they could have just gone into the election going, public finances are shot, taxes are going to have to go up.
Yep.
Except they couldn't do it because they had to lie.
We don't want old people to be cold in the winter. We don't want kids to not have the best opportunities at school. But we've also got trying to decarbonise. And we're also trying to deal with the unimaginable. Someone grew up in the 90s and studying, and we thought world peace, with the re-emergence of peer rival great power warfare. Those three things coinciding, desperate for politicians. And
honestly, people will look back on the 90s like, I'm going to call it the kind of victory lap of capitalism, where they thought, well, the history's over. Capitalism has won. The liberal democratic order, capitalism will just carry on forever and ever and ever. And it didn't even last a decade.
Yep.
And they just, the hubris, the fucking pathetic, self-absorbed hubris of these fucking free marketeer wankers. And unfortunately, the hangover of it's still here, because the people like Dan Snow, who were raised in that era, who were taught by those very same narcissistic, self-absorbed pricks who were wrong about everything, are now the captains of industry. They're now the heads of governments. They're still doing this. These people who are wrong about everything run the show.
And yeah, all went to the same schools, which reminds me, of course.
Oh, yeah, we've got to do a Dan Snow check. I wouldn't be surprised if he's private school, because his dad's been a famous TV presenter from the 70s, so, you know.
Yeah, so born in Westminster is always a good start.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the great-great-grandson of David Lloyd George.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interestingly, David Lloyd George, the only person for whom English was not their first language.
Yeah, so he went to St Paul's School, a public school, where he was the captain of school and rode for its 8. Is that an 8? Yes, this is an 8, yeah. And then went to Balliol College, Oxford, with a degree in modern history, the same degree that George Osborne had.
Amazing. So no wonder you feel sorry for them.
Whether they got there because of academic prowess or because they wanted to win the boat race remains to be seen.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't mind that specifically, like, if sports gets you a place, but, like, he was obviously going to get there anyway, because literally his fucking granddad was former Prime Minister or whatever.
Well, that's basically true. I mean, I think you're right. I actually think you're you know, if you've ever watched The History Boys.
I have indeed, yeah, very good. Well, play and then movie, yeah.
Yeah, play and then film, yeah. Alan Bennett, and there's a point where they find out that Rudge, who's the lowest performing of the students, gets a spot in Oxford because his dad used to play rugby for him or whatever it was, right? And it's just like, although the dad used to be a cleaner, right? Dad used to be a cleaner in Oxford. And so he's from Sheffield, from a working class background, and he gets in because he's good at rugby. And I think that people getting access to better education because there's this competitive sports, and people who have these long kind of standing desires to be good at sports come from these kind of more deprived backgrounds, right? Like the football industry in Britain is one of our greatest successes in the so many people who are big in the football scene, who are long-standing historic football players in this country, come from poor backgrounds, and they were spotted by scouts at local sports clubs. You know, they had the academies in Manchester, for example, and it gives these people an access to lives they wouldn't have had from the class background that they have, and it makes them better people. Like, that's why Marcus Rashford gave back so much.
Yeah, boxing's another fantastic example of that. You get incredible stories of, like, Floyd Mayweather, who was literally on the streets, literally like a homeless person, and eventually became a middleweight champion of the world. Incredible comeback, which wouldn't have been possible in any other way. So it's
exactly
an option. And even if you don't make it to the top level, just having A, physical fitness, and B, discipline instilled in young people from bad backgrounds is for the betterment of them.
Yeah, and like with football, you see loads of left-wing politics throughout it. You see a lot of anti-corporate positions. And look at how people react to Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazers in Manchester United. It's very kind of a left-wing base that football should naturally be a base for. And that obviously filters up to a lot of the managers and the people at the top of the sport as well who aren't owners. And you compare that to cricket.
It used to be better.
It
used to be better though. You used to have literally open out and out socialists like Brian Clough and Shankly and all these people. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But you compare that to cricket, right? Where they've all gone to private school. The selectors have all went to private school. So you have fuckers like Zach Crawley, who are shit. You're just really bad. right? He just sucks. He's just not a good cricketer. And he gets a continual pass to be given endless levels of rope to hang himself with in terms of failing as an England opening batsman, specifically because he went to the same private schools as all the other fucking wankers who are top at cricket as well, right?
Yeah.
It's naked self-interest and naked in-group preference that allows people like Zach Crawley infinite access to being members of the England team when he's just not good enough.
And they'll point to like, oh well, there's the odd Jeff boycott who slips through, but like, how often does that fucking happen? Come on.
Like when was the last like true like working class hero of English cricket? Right? What do we have like fucking Fred Truman? Really? Do we?
Flintoff was from a relatively humble background, wasn't he?
That's true. I mean, Freddie Flintoff was beloved as well, right? You know, when he did like that, was he like getting like a drunken fight one time? And I was like, oh, it's Freddie. Oh, it's Freddie.
Yeah, was it the Pedalos thing or some shit? In
oh, it's Pedalos, wasn't it? Because Ben Stokes got into the fight.
Well, Ben Stokes didn't just get into the fight, right? I think we should be grateful for it because apparently he was defending someone against homophobic abuse.
He was
in that fight as well. So not only should we have not prosecuted him, we should have given him a medal or something. Mad shit. Also goes to show you, not all foreigners are bad because he's from New Zealand. So, you know, they make a positive contribution.
I have sympathy for all of you.
Well, it's an unusual outburst of sympathy at the beginning of a programme like this for our elected...
Upper middle class wanker who went to school with all these upper and middle class wankers showing class solidarity with middle class wankers. Brilliant. What a breath of fresh air that is.
Politicians, but they do have a tough gig, most certainly, and these are nervy moments always for governments when they're about to present all of us with plans to spend billions of pounds of taxpayers' cash. Which bits of the public services will be flush? Where will there be a squeeze? And for an administration that became unpopular almost as soon as they took charge barely a year ago, the pressure is even more intense. The spending review will carve up money through till 2029. That just happens to be the year of the likely next election. And you will hear ministers emphasise a flood of money going into long-term projects, tens and tens of billions. But there is a reason why even this weekend, some cabinet ministers have still been trying to squeeze more cash out of Rachel Reeves, because in the short term, there's likely to be some pain. So let's talk then to Peter Kyle about all of this. Now, your part of government is technology and science, and we know that there's going to be a lot of significant extra investment in that. But let's talk about some of the issues that you were elected on, first of all. You promised to build 1.5 million homes, one of those missions, so-called. Can you guarantee that Angela Rayner's department won't face real terms cuts?
The whole details of the spending review are going to come out on Wednesday. But look at what we already have done. The key barrier to building homes was regulation and planning problems. We've got a planning bill in Parliament at the moment. We had the regulatory reform going through in the first couple of weeks after the election. We're trying to ungum the system so that the developers can get building. And we've also put new duties on developers not to sit on land but to start building. So it isn't just about money. It is a whole system that we inherited was just anti-growth, it was anti-building.
But we know it's
We're tackling the whole system, and now you're going to start seeing how government's doing the money side, which is one part but not the only part of getting houses built.
But we know it's an important part because we know that Angela Rayner's team has been still battling the Treasury up until this weekend to get money for council homes. So I'll ask again, and you might choose not to answer, but can you guarantee that that department won't face real terms cuts?
We made a manifesto commitment. We are absolutely laser focused on delivering that. It's not just...
Yeah, I know. Oh, it just... I've listened to too much of it now. It just... I've got no tolerance for it anymore. It's just fucking frustrating to hear the same lie over again. Really.
What's so frustrating is you just refusing to answer the question here, which is of course about council homes, right?
Yeah.
Like, by all means, criticise the Greens for being NIMBYs, right? Although, to be fair, in the debate over the planning and infrastructure bill, most of the opposition came from the Tories and Lib Dems who went like turbo NIMBY in the Commons. The Green Party's position on this is very clear: is that any planning changes shouldn't be a license for private developers to ignore environmental impacts. It should be focusing on ensuring that we increase council sector capacity, and that's what people in the public want. Everyone wants council housing. Not many people want like infinite like private sector unaffordable housing, you know, right? A line that I'm sympathetic with, but I don't really agree with. I think that we should be opening up every single avenue we can to build more houses to bring down the cost of living, right? I think a full gamut of policies, including council house building, CPOs, private sector deregulation to a degree that doesn't harm the environment, and things such as blocking NIMBYs from being able to block these developments, including rent controls on the existing properties, as well as trying to crack down on bad landlords. None of these things should be off the table, as far as I'm concerned, because the housing crisis is so bad.
Yeah.
But the Tory and Lib Dem one is just do not build anything anywhere for any reason at all. In fact, a Liberal Democrat MP in opposition to the motion said that actually building more houses will bring prices up. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, because you know that famous iron law of economics, the more you have of a thing, the more expensive it is. Definitely.
Just money. It's a lot of other things as well. We've got cracking right from day one of this government.
You
It
have
came
been
in
cracking,
just
yes,
11 months
yeah.
ago, and then the spending side of it will be announced on Wednesday.
In terms of another one of your missions, so-called safer streets and halving violence against women and girls and increasing the number of police on the beat, we know that the Home Office has been locked in battle with the Treasury to get more money so that police numbers can be high. And police chiefs have been out there in the public domain saying you have to do this.
Yeah, well, if the police chiefs are saying it, it must be true. Why would they lie about anything ever? They're very honourable people.
The Casey Review told us that they are the most trustworthy
They
and
are.
morally upstanding members of the
Of course,
community.
it's a very regular occurrence that a police officer will come out and say, actually, we don't need any money, we're fine. Actually, we're rolling in it. You could probably take money off us, in all honesty. We got too much. No, never happened, never going to happen. I don't give a fuck what these pricks have to say. They're shit. They cost us a fortune. They are, at best, pointless. And at worst, go around brutalising and killing people. They're shit. Stop it. They don't fucking help.
So can you guarantee there won't be real terms cuts at the Home Office?
Well, the first thing
And where's
is,
the
in last
question?
budget-
Where's the question? Right. So, building houses, where you getting the money from? Repairing schools, where you getting the money from? Doing anything positive for the British people, where's the money coming from? No magic money tree. When it comes to spending money on the army or the police, two utterly shit fucking organisations full of the biggest cunts in the country, all of a sudden those questions disappear. The magic money tree's spurting forth.
Well, literally, and the week beforehand, we were watching Laura Koonsberg, and she was fucking having a massive go at the representative who was there. I forget who it was. It was John Healy, wasn't it? So why are you not spending the money now? Spend the money. I mean, we need to see the money. Where's the money? Spend it now. And I'm just like, it's the only fucking exception. We need to get to 3%. Trump says 3%. We must get to 3%. I'm just like, where was this attitude to fucking disable people?
Also, if Trump's saying 3%, I'm sorry, are we an independent country or aren't we? I was under the impression we were at least pretending to be one.
So Ian McKenna in chat says, who are you phoning when you get burgled then? I'm going to phone the police and they'll come round, say they can't do anything about the burglary and then kill my dog, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens when you call the police about a burglary.
You know who I'm going to call? A drug dealer. Because at least they'll turn up with drugs. At least they'll turn up with drugs. They won't plant them on me and try and arrest me. They will sell me drugs. And I'll be high as fuck. Which will be a better situation than if I call the police, they turn up and do fuck all. That's who I'll call. The police, the only time the police have ever helped me was when they were literally pushing fucking machine guns into my face when I got fucking doxed and swatted. That's the only time they've ever done anything for me was when I didn't need them. And they kicked in my fucking front door and left my house fucking freezing on Christmas Eve. That's what.
Christmas? Oh,
Yeah.
fucking hell.
Yeah, that's the only time the police have ever done anything good for me because they thought I was being held hostage. And they broke into my house and I was drunkenly pinned to the floor because I might be the bad guy.
They couldn't even look up who you were. They couldn't even look up who you were living at the address. So, well, now we know who the problem is, right? Or who the guys at risk is, sorry. And then they can even look up what your face looked like.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's better safe than sorry, but like, when the only good thing they've ever done for you is point guns at you, I can't help but feel my taxes have been slightly misspent. Fucking useless pricks.
We gave £1 billion extra to police. We are on the way to delivering 13,000 new police officers right through to community police officers so that people can have community policing back in their communities again. On the fact that the police have been writing to the Chancellor as they have, you're picking on the police that are writing. We also have letters from the universities, we have letters from doctors about the health service, we have letters from campaigners for child poverty writing to us and other aspects of challenges in Britain at the moment. Every part of our society is struggling because of the inheritance that we had as a...
Okay.
Oh, yeah, but BAE Systems came running and you immediately doled out the funds, didn't you?
Yeah, I was about to say, if child poverty people are writing to you and you're like quibbling over whether you should do X, Y, and Z, but like you say, BAE Systems turn up, the fucking the League of Extraordinary Police Officers or whatever the fuck they're called turns up and asks for money. All of a sudden, the money's there. Oh, what's that, Banks? You need an extra 20 billion because you've spaffed it all away guessing again. Okay, yeah, you can have it. Never mind.
As a country and as a government.
But these are your decisions now to take. You've put up taxes significantly on business in order to pay for extra investment to public service. To govern is to choose. It's a question now of where you decide to put these priorities. And you promise people there'd be more police officers. The police say there might not be enough cash, and the Home Office is still arguing over it.
And I've said that what Rachel Reeves is doing is looking at this in the round. We understand, we get it. Right across our society, our economy, our public services, we get the stresses that people are under. We understand that we are getting growth into the economy already. We're the fastest growing economy in the G7, but we know that people aren't feeling it in their pockets yet. That's why what you are already hearing about the spending review is that we are going to increase per pupil funding in schools to the highest it's ever been, and we're going to have the largest ever increase in R&D as a government in our history. We will be spending 86 billion by the end of this spending review. Now that means we're investing in the technologies of the future.
Okay, so and how much of that is going into Tony Blair's son's pocket?
Exactly, it's so frustrating. As someone myself, right, I'm really great to hear government saying we're investing in R&D. The significant advancements in human prosperity that have happened since the Second World War broadly have come from governments investing in better ways of working, better ways of doing things, right? I'm all on for government investment in R&D. Great to hear it. And yet their idea of R&D is fucking investing in AI data slop centers, right? Like, this is not the R&D innovation that I was asking for, chat.
No.
Future that are going to create the innovations and the wealth of the future.
Giving a fuck ton of money to fucking Peter Thiel to come up with yet another version of the ID card that no one wants.
Oh my god, literally fucking digital ID. I saw a poll that said people were in favour of it, but like the line is, oh, we need digital ID to stop the boats. I'm just like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Utter bollocks. I'm not for a second a majority of people in favour of it. They never have been, they never will be. The British public, rightly or wrongly, are some of the most suspicious bastards in the world. They don't want their information being held in these fucking databases of people. They don't like it.
Look at this guy, or West Streeting's face. Who the fuck in this country trusts these people?
And
honestly.
All you need to do is show Peter Thiel's sweaty face. Do you want this man having access to your children's information? No.
You know, like, show that video of Alex Karp, like, bragging about how Palantir murders people, right? Like, these motherfuckers cannot be trusted with anyone's information. They couldn't be entrusted with their own, right? They should be put in a padded cell.
Or Trebuchet.
True. Tesco Gulag, let's go.
Future, placing our economy in the forefront. We're investing in the skills that are coming through. We are building out between Oxford and Cambridge with great sort of space for new innovation, but also...
Interestingly, did you see the way they fucked over Wales with that? They've defined the part of the transport infrastructure for this Cambridge-Oxford link thing as English and Welsh spending. So that comes out of the Wales transport bit.
So I think this is overdone. This came up on Question Time. Obviously, it was in Llandudno.
Llandudno, isn't it?
The reality is that it's a hypothecated fund that goes to England and Wales in its entirety, in the same way that England and Wales have a part of the same like cricket club, right? Of cricket nation, you know. But
Simon Jones played years ago. It's fine, yeah.
Yeah, but because I think that it's fine to say that. Actually, these funds are for everybody throughout these two jurisdictions. As long as they're spent fairly and as much is spent on one as is spent on the other, then that's fine, right? The issue, of course, just saying it's part of the same pot, I think is a disingenuous argument. The issue for me is that Labour knows it's on its fucking last legs and their government is hated.
Yeah.
And at a time when Port Talbot Steelworks is closing, when Labour heartlands have seen no investment coming on 46 fucking years now, and it's only got to take them 10 months into government to go, let's do some transport projects in the northwest or whatever it is. It really does fucking sting when they go, what's the first thing we're announcing in the budget? Because it was in the October budget, this. We're doing a fucking AI data center Silicon Valley fucking tech bro mini world in adventure theme park between Oxford and Cambridge. I'm like, what? The place in the country that already have all of the investment already? Why is this not in fucking Wales? Why is this not in Sunderland? Why is this not in literally any of the left behind areas of the country which you could try and get more FDI into, try and attract businesses from around the world to set up and employ people, or have state provision for employment through industrial strategy, through industrial policy to try and build new jobs in the areas that have been left behind forever. And your opening gambit is, we're going to go to Oxford and Cambridge, the place with all the posh people, all the money, all of the investment that they already have, is a fucking slap in the face.
Yeah.
So the Labour heartland of Wales that have voted Labour diligently year after year after year throughout over a decade of Tory rule, getting screwed over by Westminster, only then to get into government and go, nah, fuck you, we're going to invest in where the Tories were investing in already, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they're in third place now in Welsh election, right?
They're looking at potential wipeout in Wales.
Yep.
Which is, if they get wiped out in Wales and Scotland, they're fucked. They're done. It's basically over, because Labour can't win with just England. They can't. They've never had the base in. There are huge sections of England, like the southwest, where they just don't have a footing. There isn't a vote for them there. They might win the odd seat here and there, but mainly in the bigger cities like Bristol. But that's it. That's all they can do. So you can't win in England.
It's looking like a real existential fucking collapse here, because they'll probably not win Wales, right?
Yep.
And they're probably going to lose the northeast and the northwest as well.
Well, what we're seeing, I think, is just an extension of the death of the kind of, again, the 90s bullshit, victory lap capitalism, end of history, liberal order, right? We've seen it in places like France and Germany, where the traditional parties have sunk. In France, they've basically disappeared. The Conservatives and the Socialists that dominated post-war France don't exist as an electoral force anymore. They're not a thing. They don't. It's fascist or communists, or you get the odd weird fucking liberal, like the fucking wanker at the minute. But that's it. The traditional parties are gone because they don't represent the people that they once did.
That's it. That's it, right? And what's interesting as well is that Emmanuel Macron is basically the Starmer project, He was previously a member of the Parti Socialiste, right?
Yeah.
He was originally a member of the nominally centre-left party, and then instead of just turning the centre-left party into a centrist party, because they basically were under Hollande already, he created his own centrist party, which fucking what Starmer should have done, right? They went full change UK, apart from theirs was successful. Yeah. And so anybody who believed in actual social democracy on a basic level fucking rejected it and became radical socialists and supported Mélenchon instead,
Well, exactly. Mélenchon, and that's the thing, because it became so narrowed, Mélenchon's sort of target audience or whatever, that was what used to be just general left-wing thought. Whereas now it's produced as this kind of radical, crazy, like you're suggesting, absolute out-and-out communism, which he isn't, really, And neither is the Green Party, neither was Jeremy Corbyn. It's the fact that they've tried to so pathetically narrow it to the one opinion you're ever allowed to have, and there's no difference between the left and right options, and people are fucking sick of it, because they've seen their country sold off to multinational interests by both the quote-unquote socialists and the quote-unquote conservatives, who are neither of those things. They don't represent conservatism, they don't represent socialism, or even social democracy, or even vaguely left-wing anything anymore. So why would you bother voting for them? You're literally asking people to vote for their own evisceration, and they're not going to do it. That's why, I despise Marine Le Pen, I despise Nigel Farage, but I totally understand why people want to vote for them. I totally get it.
I see you're more electorally clued in than Baroness fucking Jenny Jones, then.
Well, exactly, yeah. I despise them, and I don't want them anywhere near the halls of power, because they're fucking crazy cunts who are going to do bad things to innocent people. But I understand perfectly well the massive frustration that people have in places that used to be prosperous, that aren't not prosperous for any legitimate, genuine reason. They've been purposely run down by generations of spineless, self-obsessed, greedy, corrupt bastards to, multinational corporations. Whether it be the agro-businesses totally destroying farming communities, or whether it's, the jobs being shipped up to China because it's cheaper. Every person has been immiserated by this process, certainly in the Western world, and I can't help but feel in the Eastern world. I don't think if you're working in a fucking iPhone sweatshop with suicide nets that you feel that your life is fantastic either, it's just, capitalism is a fucking cancerous growth that's slowly killing humanity. It needs to stop. Not that Marine Le Pen or Nigel Farage are ever going to do that, but the kind of outcroppings of that problem are things that they can tap into, you know.
Well, is it true? Fascism is capitalism in decay.
Yeah.
It is the this is why I had someone in my chat saying we need to speak to people about the cultural issues because they won't vote for your economic ones. I'm like, well, their cultural issues are born out of the economics, right?
Yeah.
There'll be no basis for the level of which anti-immigrant sentiment has become the central pillar of political discussion if the economy wasn't shit, right? If people were happy because their material conditions were fine, there'd be some disgruntled people, but they wouldn't really have this massive fucking bugbear. And even if you fix the immigration problem, right, they'll move on to some other fucking minority to blame for the fact that the nation is in decline, right? Move on to trans people, whatever, or whoever else they want to go for.
Well, you've seen it, but now they feel that they've had their victory over trans people in the UK, which, by the way, they haven't, but, you know, they feel they have. They're now moving on to, was it fucking agender people? Or it was asexual people, whatever the fuck it was. Anyway, like they'll always move on to it, because this is the thing that fascism does. It's its own version of the cancerous tumour, but more nakedly, obviously cancerous. And they always need new enemies. There was never an in-group to begin with. It's always just, you are part of the in-group for now, whilst it's convenient.
Well, it's why we're seeing these fascist governments once they win, right? Once the radical right parties win power in these European governments, right? They immediately lose a huge amount of support because in reality, when you find out whether the Finns party or the Sweden Democrats, whoever it is, get actual access to any amount of governance, people realise they fucking suck because once they're in power, they can't be oppositional anymore, right? Yeah. They are. For so much, people say that the left loves being in opposition. Fascism exists in opposition.
Yeah,
it is a explicitly reactionary force. And so once they're in government, once they have political power, they don't know what to do with it.
Well, it's not just that they don't know what to do with it, but even if they did, even if they were diligent enough and hard-working enough, the conspiracies that drive those kind of movements aren't true. There isn't a secret cabal of people running it. The woke aren't in charge of everything. It's nonsense. So they get into power, and they're trying to solve problems that don't exist. And it just seems like they're doing nothing, because ultimately they kind of are doing nothing. We're seeing this with Nigel Farage and his Doge now. Like, you're going to get rid of DEI. That doesn't exist here. What are you talking about? That's not a thing. You're going to cut projects that don't happen.
Do you know they found like £60,000 worth of cuts to equalities positions in councils across the country? That is 1/6 the amount of savings of the amount that is going to cost local government to rerun the local elections for the reform councillors who stood down because they didn't realise they were ineligible to be councillors in the first place.
Brilliant. Well, you saw that in America with the American Doge. It went from 2 trillion to 150 billion, and they still can't even show that they're saving that. It's an embarrassment. They're a fucking joke, these people.
Well, loads of children died in the global south, and that's what it's really about.
Well, and loads of planes crashed, because it was only woke keeping them in the sky.
Well, it's funny to me, like, I had someone get in my chat comment saying, well, I can't believe you think the USA did good things. I'm like, I don't believe in American hard power in the slightest, right? But do you think Elon Musk was there to cut out American international influence? Or do you think he was there to murder people in the global south, right? If you think it's the former and not the latter, you need to get your head checked.
Yeah, like, he is explicitly a white birth rate accelerationist, crazy racist bastard. If he can't necessarily make white people fuck, but he can make black people die. And he did. That's it. That's all he was interested in.
Yep, literally.
Although some of my favourite memes, talking about Africa in a way, one of my favourite memes of the Trump-Elon split was that of people photoshopping Trump onto the face of Julius Malema singing "Kill the boar, kill the farmer." Spicy,
very funny,
but very good.
Commercialisation, and we've done the trade deals for which the exports of the future will be relying on.
So what you were elected on were Keir Starmer's so-called missions, and 2 of those key missions were police on the streets and houses being built. And there are obviously deep concerns in the government departments that are tasked with doing those jobs that there won't be enough money. So can you admit today that basically the priorities have changed a bit since you've been in office? There's going to be loads more money for defence. You're always telling us the world has changed. You're putting significant extra money into the NHS. And that means, logically, there might be less cash for the missions that you promised the country you would deliver?
We will deliver on those missions. And if I'm
Oh,
not being clear
for
enough, let me be
fuck's
clear.
sake! Oh, this guy's infuriating. We'll deliver on those missions. How is that an answer to the thing she said?
Again,
Why did you say that? Like, are you fucking 6 years of age? Don't talk to me like a fucking child.
It's just like what it was like before the election. Where it's like, what are your policies? We're going to do good things. We're going to create good outcomes. Well, how are those good outcomes going to come about? By doing the things that create the good outcomes. What are those things? The good outcomes. Just give us a fucking policy, for fuck's sake.
Unbelievable shit, man.
We have already given £1 billion extra to the police. Money is part of how we change our country for the better. And reform, modernisation, using technology, doing things in the way that people would expect our public services to be doing in the 2020s is the other part. We are delivering investment into the police. We expect the police to start embracing the change they need to do their bit for change as well. We are doing...
So, will that have a mandate for them to stop raping and abusing their spouses and people they arrest? Because that would be good.
I mean, I think he's referring to artificial intelligence.
Yeah, no, AI. You know, he's just talking about AI. Of course he is.
Doing our bit. You see a Chancellor that is striving to get investment to the key parts of our country that needs it the most. That is what you've seen in the previous budget, and you've also returned the stability.
I just thought, like, it's going to be... Are you going to ring up for a police officer and a fucking bored yacht ape club fucking gif is going to arrive at your house or something? A fucking algorithm is just going to spew out a number for you to give to a fucking... to the insurance company, and that's it. That's all that's going to happen from now on.
Early signs of growth into our economy. You will see the priorities of this government reflected in the spending review, which sets the departmental spending into the long term. But this is a partnership. Yes, the Treasury needs to find more money for those key priorities, but the people delivering them need to do their bit as well.
In terms then of the overall, you know, as you said, there'll be £86 billion. In fact, we think more than £100 billion extra of capital going in over the long term. And we can show our viewers a chart that was passed to me this week that will be in some of Wednesday's document. And you can see there, this is what's happened to money over the years. You can see during the coalition years, so-called austerity, the total spending of different bits of government went down. The red line, for viewers to explain, is what Labour spending is going to do, and the pale blue line is what the Conservatives would have done had they hung on in office. It's a very significant overall increase. Is that sustainable when the debt is at sky-high historic levels, and so is taxation? How can you go on like that?
And that's why the story of change is so important.
Like the public overwhelmingly want more spending. That is something that is born out of basically every single poll, right? They're resistant to means with which to pay for it, right? But I don't really fucking care what they like. People just want outcomes. They don't really care about the nuts and bolts when you actually look at the brass tacks of things, right? The issue is actually we're still not spending enough. We're still not spending enough.
Yeah.
We've lagged behind comparable European countries in expenditure for 15 fucking years, right? Not only do we need to spend as much as they are currently doing now, we need to be spending more to patch over all of the fucking gigantic holes in this country's economy. Like, it looks like Swiss cheese at this point because of the failure of Conservative governance, right?
Yeah.
We need to spend more, not the same.
Also, interestingly, she says so-called austerity years, when you can literally see that's austerity. There was a big dip. Anyway. And secondly, that graph cuts off at 2009. I wonder if there was a significantly higher amount of spending every year ever before that year.
Literally.
Maybe if you went back 20 years further on that graph, you'd notice how much further down we are. But, you know, that wouldn't be good for the manufacturing of consent now, would it?
To do welfare reform, and we will continue to do welfare reform, because we've got 3 million people as part of our legacy who are not economically active for health reasons. We need to make sure that those people get the support they need, because most people do want to work, and if you do want to work, you should get the support back into work to do so and start contributing.
Why does the state need to be so much bigger than it was 20 years ago?
Well, this is state spending. What we're
why is it so much smaller than it was 25 years ago or 30 years ago? We had it a lot better. For fuck's sake.
doing is reforming the civil service. So actually you'll find the state becoming smaller but also smarter. That is what I think people expect. So yes, we will invest into those key parts of our country that need it. The thing that strikes me about that chart is you saw the exponential increase in the last few years of the Tory government, but what was to show for it? There was nothing to show for it. We are doubling down on changing our state so we deliver for people, and we just absolutely make sure that we're using the latest techniques, the latest technology. Later this month, the first
just
time
all
ever,
AI.
with the government.uk app, so every citizen can start the process of interacting with their public services via their smartphones. Well, I didn't inherit any work on that. I started that work the day I came into office. Then there will be a chatbot so people can start interacting using AI with government
for
services.
fuck's
they can get more
sake!
information. Then there'll be a digital wallet.
AI is just going to save us all from everything. No government will ever have to do anything ever again. They can just do AI.
It's fine. We'll
This is
replace
just
civil service with
the
AI.
laziest crutch I've ever seen. They're just going to rely on AI for everything.
Well, it's just because they're true believers, right? They're totally sold on this stuff because, of course, Tony Blair funds it. Is that there is just this generational shift in terms of productivity that can be created because of the changing nature of AI. It's this big kind of gambit that they've got. But this is basically, as far as I can see, one huge boondoggle for Tony Blair's donors, right? He may be a true believer, he may not be. I don't really care. The issue, of course, is that it's just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, they're putting the future of the country in the hands of something that has proven to achieve nothing so far. Brilliant. Can't wait, lads.
By the end of this year, a digital driving licence with all of the ID card functions that people would expect from it. This is a government that is putting power and information into people's hands. It is modernising government, and government will start to become smaller and smarter and reflect the way that people interact with travel, commerce and banking services. That's what people can expect, and we're doing it within less than a year of office.
And you're very passionate about the opportunities of technology, and we've talked to you about some of that before. You said a few minutes ago, technology and AI will drive the wealth of the country as computers become cleverer and more able to think like humans. But you know, whether it's Elton John's teasing you or not, you know there are deep fears in our mighty creative industries that by potentially allowing tech firms to use copyrighted material without permission, that you might very much harm those industries, and that could lead to economic loss and to job losses. Some people think that you are selling them out. Can we just establish, do you acknowledge right now it is illegal for anyone, tech firms or not, to be using material that has copyright without permission?
Yes, I have always done so. This debate is not about whether creative people, one side wants to protect the creative sector into the future and I don't. This debate is about how we do it and who has the best solution. Now, at the moment, I'm being criticised because I'm not accepting one amendment on a piece of legislation that doesn't change copyright at all. It's not relevant legislation. I am offering to look comprehensively at the challenges that creatives have into the future, to bring forward legislation at the right time that will change.
This is a key thing.
So I have pledged that the second this data bill is through Parliament, and this hopefully will be next week, I will start working groups, workshops, analysing the consultation that I've already had.
Hang on, I found the fucking thing. Jesus, right. Oh. Hang on, what did I do? Right, so Keir Starmer has said in a speech today that he wants a partnership with 11 major companies to train 7.5 million workers in AI by 2030.
So that's 5 years, right? Yeah. So that's 1.5 million people trained per year.
Yeah, which is literally impossible and not going to happen, and would be ridiculous to even fucking try that, and would amount to, like I say, about 1 in 5 of the entire working population of the country.
And again, it's just like you have to be you have to be literally brain dead to think that AI is going to be applicable as some kind of productivity aid in 20% of the fucking economy, right?
Yeah. Like, we're not going to be able to. We can't do anything in 5 years. Fuck me, we've been. How long have we been planning HS2? About 40 fucking years now. And we've only going to be maybe doing half of it in 10 years' time. Like, there's no fucking way you're training 7.5 million people in 5 years. Unless he's thinking AI can do the training as well. Maybe AI just gets to do everything now. Maybe we have an AI Prime Minister. It can't be any fucking worse than him.
To be fair, we still have robots building the robots that build the new robots for next year. So, you know, maybe we can just have AI training people on AI.
True. Oh, that is the wrong thing.
You've just shared with me your live stream,
which is not at all what I meant to do. I've shown you behind the scenes. Yes.
That's been up and running for some time is now closed. I will harness the fears and the opportunities that creatives have, and I will give them the rights.
I will harness the fears they have. What the fuck does that mean?
You know, he's like the soul reaver. Like it feasts upon people's fear, right?
Yeah.
It sustains his life force.
Their angst sustains my existence.
That they have in the analog age that are fit for the digital age.
What do you mean by that? Because there's quite a
he
simple
doesn't
thing
know.
We've got into a huge
He's just
standoff with the
talking.
House of Lords if people haven't been following this closely. There's quite a clear thing. People like Elton John, but also thousands of people who work in the creative industries fear that they're essentially being stolen from, and that by not committing right now to saying when you're going to protect them with that new law, that you're letting tech companies away with murder, and you're doing it because you're so keen to harness the opportunities of technology. Why are they wrong?
No, they're not wrong. They are right to care about this issue. But we have the second largest creative sector in the world. We have the third largest AI market in the world. I'm not going to pick and choose between the two. This is something we should be celebrating as a country, not...
Well, no, you are choosing between the two by not protecting creative, artists. What you are doing is choosing Elon Musk.
Yeah, but think of what will happen to the profit margins and the share portfolios of BlackRock and KKR for the AI tech firms that they invest in when they make super profits off of the identikit slop that's created by scraping all of the music that makes all this country great from our history of being one of the creative hubs of the world, right? What about their profits?
True.
Consider that, you meanie.
No, I've been terribly mean there. I apologise. Can I apologise purposely to Elon Musk and Peter Thiel? My bad.
Fearing as a country or picking from one side against the other. We can find a way forward that takes both sectors into the future because our country has these golden jewels that we need to protect. But what I want to do is to look at how remuneration works in digital age, where in the analog age it's just not fit for purpose.
Not a big point, but golden jewels is not a thing. Gold and jewels are two separate pieces of... you can combine them to make one piece of jewellery, certainly, but gold and jewels is not a thing. Just like
did he mean to say crown jewels?
Wood and metal is also not a thing. Gaseous, I don't know, aluminium isn't a thing. Like, it's, come on. Yeah, I don't know what he meant. Maybe AI told him to say it. I don't know.
Transparency, so that people who are creating work understand how their work is being used by AI. I want to look at licensing agreements and give new powers for licensing agreements, but also I want to make sure that people who want to move away from the AI, they don't want their work consumed at all, they want to opt out of it, they also have that option too.
So you will have an opt-out, because that's one thing that the House of Lords asked for, and then at that point you were saying no to that, so you've moved on.
Actually, I always had on the table from the outset an opt-out clause, but I mistakenly said that this was my preferred option that had a more prominence than perhaps some of the creatives wanted.
Oh, so Elton John was right, you are a moron. Okay. No, that's... You know what? I've never been happier to say, well done, Elton. Fucking nailed it, bruv.
True.
It to have, and I've now sort of gone back to the drawing board on that because I am listening to what people want. But look, AI has been around for a few years now. The previous government did nothing. I inherited no work on this. I've decided to grasp this difficult issue, and I will reconcile it into the future. So, whereas all the things I've just outlined that I want to offer creatives into the future, only one tiny part of that is what's up for debate in the House of Lords at the moment. I want to look comprehensively to come forward with legislation that, yes, harnesses the power of AI, but gives gives digital rights in the digital age for what...
Honestly, capitalism's so shit. The AI is potentially something, okay? So what we need is, like, I don't know, fucking scientists or some shit, technology people, to, like, squirrel away in a laboratory and try and create something. What we don't need is, during, say, I don't know, a time when we should be decarbonising, burning the planet down so that AI slop videos of bulldogs dressed as fucking Union Jacks can be created. Like, we don't need that.
Thing, yeah.
That's not a thing that's necessary. Why do I have access to some fucking, like, crazy, like, chat GPT? It's not necessary. That's not improving the situation for any human being ever. Have proper people in a fucking lab or in a fucking office building doing something fucking cool with AI. Cool. But why is it available in this way? We're destroying the planet.
And this is what this is why I was I'm so passionate about, like, state-backed R&D, right? Because they can direct it towards social utility, you know.
Yeah.
And leaving all of this innovation in the hands of private sector bastards who have no intention of doing anything that, you know, improves the lives of people or makes humanity kind of strive further. Of course, that you're just going to end up with fucking Andrew Tate's AI-generated manifesto for a meme party he started in 5 minutes, right? Of course.
Well, I'm talking of sexual abusers. Of course, this is the big step forward using AI for everybody is that you can just create fake revenge porn of people you don't like and just post that on the internet now. Because that's a huge boon for humanity. Thank you, honestly. What good does it fucking do to have the general public have access to this? It's so stupid.
Yep, literally.
Moment is an analog system for protecting rights, which isn't working because, as you said, all this stuff is being used by AI under the current law. I accept it has to change, and the only way is fundamental change, not what I'm being lobbied on, which is piecemeal change, which wouldn't do the job of
I'm sure we come
protecting
back to
the
this
future.
issue because it's a very interesting dilemma for modern governments. How do you balance these things? Another one of those, and we're short on time, I'm afraid, is how you balance the fun and opportunity of being online with some of the harms, particularly for children. And you've spoken to one of the newspapers this morning and said you're looking at this idea of, you might call it an app cap, you know, limits on kids being allowed to go on social media, a bit like a curfew. So what are you hoping to achieve and when?
I know this is
So, again, I will just point out this is from the same political party who said absolutely nothing in abrogation of one of their ministers' former advisors exposing his penis to a 13-year-old and chasing them down the street. Didn't get any police time for that. And it doesn't warrant any comment whatsoever. But
yeah, or indeed
it's the
their
apps.
ambassador their ambassador to the United States having met Jeffrey Epstein in prison
and gone to his birthday party.
Indeed.
You know, which I don't know that one can accidentally attend someone's birthday party. I think that's definitely something you have to be invited to and actively go to. Yes.
Well, to be fair, I think I've definitely been accidentally in people's birthday parties before. I've never accidentally visited someone in prison.
No, that is true, because there are literal, like, guards there that will stop accidental wanderings off the streets, one would hope.
Well, you and your viewers care deeply about. I've not been able to talk publicly about what the Labour approach is because we've had the legacy legislation that has to go through first. But this year we've had illegal content that needs to be taken down. But in July, age-appropriate material must be supplied by platforms, otherwise there'll be criminal sanctions against them. And in this time I've been looking very carefully about what we do next. I want to nail down harder on safety, but I want to use that safety for a purpose, which is to understand what is a healthy online life for children in the same way we understand what health means in the physical offline world. And I'm trying to incentivize the behaviors and stop the barriers towards moving towards that healthy life. As soon as I am able to announce the measures that I'm working on, I will come here and talk to you first.
Well, we'll hold you to that promise, but can you confirm you're looking at a curfew, an app cap?
I'm looking at things that prevent healthy activity. I'm looking at some of the addictive nature of some of the apps and smartphones. I'm trying to think how we can break some of the addictive behaviour and then incentivise more of the healthy, developmental, educative, and also the good
Literally, oh my
communicative
God, he's so
side
cucked, right?
Yeah.
People are having mental health problems from addictive behaviour on smartphones because evil multinational corporations want to fucking steal their time to target adverts for shit at them, right? That's the whole point of the whole underlying principle, the underlying driving factor in, like, social media addiction, essentially, is the fact that the profit motive of the social media giants is that they need you to be on the app to target adverts at you. That's literally everything. And you're here going, oh, well, we won't get in the way of these corporate monsters from stealing the time of children.
Yeah.
We're going to just say, oh, we need you to teach young people better and not actually impact the profit margins of these multinational bastards at all.
Well, because that's it. It's just conservatism 101, right? You look at the capitalism and you go, tell you what the problem is, too much phone.
Literally.
It's the kids and their phones. Kids be scrolling.
Of online life.
OK, Peter Carroll, thank you very much. Lots of
Thanks.
interesting modern dilemmas in your department. It's always good to have you with us on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much.
Honestly, if he got bowel cancer, I think the world would be a better place.
You can't just say everyone. You can't just literally make every single politician wish them to get cancer, Kevin.
Challenge accepted.
Very much
True,
indeed.
touche.
Well, however Wednesday ends up looking for the government and Rachel Reeves, the Conservatives might have a tough job these days answering, given that this week the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, almost, but not quite, said sorry for Liz Truss's disastrous mini-budget. And then a day later,
I suppose it's quite in keeping with Kimmy Badenoch's style of leadership, but is Mel Stride the most non-entity Chancellor/Shadow Chancellor ever?
I mean, it's funny because I mentioned that Sunday Times article.
Nadeem Zahawi was Chancellor for 2 days and had more public presence than this motherfucker has.
Well, that's the irony, right? Is that the Sunday Times article that Jeremy Hunt referenced that actually had Jeremy Hunt writing in it was him, Nadeem Zahawi and Mel Stride talking about what they would do if they were Rachel Reeves' shoes, if they were Chancellor right now. And Nadeem Zahawi, who was literally Chancellor for a fucking, between coughs, right?
Yeah.
He had more to say in terms of policy and what he would do than the actual Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mel Stride, who basically just said, I would do good things and not the bad things. Essentially, was just doing what Rachel Reeves said she was going to do in the run-up to the fucking election.
Unbelievable stuff.
Badenoch, the leader, almost, but not quite, said the party would leave the European Convention on Human Rights. Let's see
Which
if
again is the worst of all policies. If you want to appeal to more liberal conservatives, you say, no, we're staying in the ECHR. There are elements that we don't like. Maybe we'll try and reform or something like that. But ultimately, we're going to stay in it because we believe in human rights and blah, blah, blah. Or you chase Farage's votes and say, we're leaving. You don't do this. We're going to have a research group put together that's going to take a look at maybe whether we might leave or not or something. That's not winning anyone over. You're playing both sides in a way that's going to lead to both sides hating you, not both sides liking you.
And I think the fact that the voter base that would vote for reform just do not trust the Conservatives in the slightest on anything. Quite frankly, I think the only route to them not getting annihilated is to move to the centre.
Yeah.
It is to move towards the Lib Dem voters.
And let's be honest, a lot of those votes would never vote for a black person to become Prime Minister.
It's true.
Like I'm not saying that's a majority of them, but it's a fair chunk of them. You're realistically speaking, you have to tack towards some kind of centre ground, because doing this is just. When was the last time you saw a poll with the Tories over like 50 seats?
They've not been above 20% for months.
Yeah, exactly. They're in wipeout territory and getting worse.
Was the last poll that had them above 20%? There wasn't More in Common, because More in Common artificially boosted Tories.
Yeah.
Been
a while, I think. Yeah.
There's a Survation one in April that had them at 22%.
Okay.
The last YouGov poll had them at 20% on the 28th of April. Right.
Oof.
So
Been a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
The party's Shadow Home Secretary is in a more definitive mood as he joins us this morning. Let's start then with the spending review and money. Your colleague, the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, expressed contrition in a big speech about Liz Truss this week. He couldn't quite say sorry. You were Chief Secretary at the time. Will you say sorry for what happened?
Well, I think Mel openly and honestly acknowledged that mistakes were made in that time. Mistakes were made. And what Mel was saying is that those mistakes will never be made again by a Conservative administration. And of course...
And you can totally believe us this time. We said we were going to reduce immigration and then massively increased it. But trust us, we won't do that for the 20th time in a row. Honestly, he's taking the
Lord Freeters donated
hang on,
$5.
one second.
I stand for the right of Kev to threaten
Actually,
fingering and wish
can you
ball
skip back
cancer
to when
on
she asked the
anyone.
question? I forgot to hit record
Free
like
the
an idiot.
Kev. Despunkify.
Thank you, Lord Freetus, for completely interrupting my very good point about First World War generalship. Yeah, they're doing the thing of like, well, the Germans won't expect us to get out of our trench and walk slowly towards them for the 100th time in a row. Like, it's, I think they will, actually, yeah.
But you want to skip to the...
Yeah.
Cheers.
We will go.
Don't know whether I was... Yeah.
Disastrous mini budget. And then a day later, Kemi Badenoch, the leader, almost, but not quite, said the party would leave the European Convention on Human Rights. Let's see if Chris Philp, the party's Shadow Home Secretary, is in a more definitive mood as he joins us this morning. Let's start then with the spending review and money. Your colleague, the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, expressed contrition in a big speech about Liz Truss this week. He couldn't quite say sorry. You were Chief Secretary at the time. Will you say sorry for what happened?
Well, I think Mel openly and honestly acknowledged that mistakes were made
So
in
will you say sorry?
that time. Mistakes were made, and what Mel was saying.
So you can tell the public schoolboy wanker, even when mistakes are made, you don't apologise. Like, if I make a mistake, I say sorry for that, because I realise I made a mistake, and I'm going to try and mend my ways to assure that it doesn't happen again. Whereas it's just like, no, mistakes were made, moving on. That's it. That's the public schoolboy way. Accountability.
What's that?
What, I have a responsibility to the plebs? I think not.
Saying is that those mistakes will never be made again by a Conservative administration. And of course, we do see some parties today, like Reform, making extravagant promises about massive...
And you can trust us. You know, we've made the point about immigration 1,000,000 times. We're definitely going to reduce it and not vastly increase it. And you won't expect us to break that promise 10 times in a row, will you? Like, come on,
I wonder.
Mate. This is the thing. It doesn't matter what they promise now at this point. The Conservative voter has finally worked out, after 250 fucking years, that the Tory party doesn't have their best interests at heart. And they don't believe that they're going to do the things they say they're going to do. So they're going to vote for another idiot who isn't going to do the things he says he's going to do. But they at least don't have like a backtrack record in the Reform Party of governance. So, you know, there's that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've seen failure from every single elected political party for however many years, right? Yeah. And they're rolling the dice on literally anybody else.
Wait, Brexit 2.0. Yeah. I know that I'm absolutely fucked if I vote for these two main parties. Whereas, mystery box? You never know.
Tax cuts and increases in welfare that are completely unfunded and could cause a repeat of what happened then. But those mistakes will never again be made by a Conservative government.
Well, Chris Philp, you were shadowed...
That is technically true. It will never be made by a Conservative government because there's never going to be a Conservative government. So no, that's technically true. In the same way that you don't see the Liberal Party fucking people anymore, do you? Because they haven't been in electoral force for 100 years.
To the Treasury at the time, there were 45 billion of unfunded tax cuts. Mortgage rates went soaring. There had to be emergency intervention. I'll ask you again, do you want to just say sorry for that? Maybe so you can move on.
Well, look, I think huge mistakes were made, as I've said already.
But will you say sorry? Isn't this precisely the thing that drives people bananas?
It's not even just mistakes, huge mistakes. He's not going to apologise for huge mistakes. That's the least you can do.
I don't know why they won't just say sorry. It's really weird to me. They know that the big link between kind of the heartland Tory voters and the Conservative Party was broken by the massive spike in mortgage rates and people, not just that, people's pensions collapsing. Right? I think actually people don't quite understand the level to which people have dealt with mortgages going up and down for years and years. Right? This is not specific to Conservative governance, but they had essentially staked their entire electoral fortunes on the retired being their voter base forever. Or the soon-to-be retired, right? People who'd saved, they were aspirational good savers who'd been part of the strivers, not the skivers, for how many years, And then the worst thing that Liz trusted was to literally shred tens of thousands of pounds off people's pensions overnight. It's never recovered since, right? Liz Truss is directly responsible for people having huge amounts of pension provision wiped from their accounts that will never come back again. And this is unsalvageable. Like, you can't just kind of hand wave away this stuff. And the first thing you do ever, if you want to bring that trust back, you have to apologise, surely.
Yeah. But you know what else Liz Truss also destroyed that hasn't returned yet?
The Queen.
The fucking Queen.
Yay!
But he's a public school boy, so they don't naturally want to apologise for anything because they don't feel that they have to ever apologise for anything. And secondly, as politicians, there's this weird sort of machismo bullshit of like, if you apologise, even when you deserve to and it would be good for your polling numbers, it makes you look weak. Which, for me, is really fucking silly. If someone gets something wrong, you should apologise. It's just a basic piece of morality, surely, but we're not dealing with humans here, we're dealing with politicians.
True.
It's about politicians. You make a speech in London, your colleague makes a speech in London expressing contrition, which is a fancy way for saying we got it wrong and we're sorry. Will you say sorry to people for the Liz Truss implosion?
Well, look, Mel was pressed on this, Mel Stride, and he said mistakes were made, right? And they're not going to happen again, right? So it's very, very clear indeed.
I'm sorry, fucking Tory boy, fucking Nazi bot 3000. Can you say any other sentence? Are you capable of saying any other formation of words to this question? Because it's just... mistakes were made. We're not going to make those mistakes again. Mistakes were made. We're not going to make those mistakes again. Mistakes were made. Fucking hell.
Like, people wonder why we hate politicians, because you know full well, right? He's had a briefing, he's gone to his media advisor, part of his office, cabinet office, whatever, and they've gone, okay, the line we're going with is mistakes were made. We've been given the briefing by Laura Koonsberg's show, but the questions they're going to ask us, this is the line that we're going with, and you should repeat that and not actually say sorry when asked to. And because these people are unthinking androids who don't actually have any vision or beliefs or anything, they just have... they're automatons repeating the lines that's been given to them by advisors and by consultants or whatever. He doesn't have the ability to be able to think on his feet to say anything else. And people notice this. They notice in the robotic nature that you hear the same repeated lines. My dad was a tool maker, £22 billion black hole, Liz Truss crashed the economy. Because of course the advisors have told Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves to say this stuff too. Yeah. It's not just irritating and repetitive. It's completely insincere, and it sounds insincere.
It's cynical.
And and voters aren't stupid. They can see that this is happening. They can see people aren't answering questions, and they're not having any of it. Like, Nigel Farage is a monster. I think he's a massive arsehole. But at the very least, when he's asked a question, for the most part, he at least answers it to the best of his ability, rather than saying the same thing that he's been told by an advisor to say, because for better for worse, he has beliefs that he believes in and he sticks to, even if those beliefs suck.
Indeed so. Although, again, we must be borne out, for once, Laura Koonsberg doing the journalism. Because it's the obvious lie here, by omission, that he's not saying the word sorry, so ask him again. And again,
because he isn't sorry. That's the thing.
The beautiful thing is, you don't need to elicit the answer. I've said, I don't know if you saw the fantastic clip of the Scottish guy berating the fuck out of the Labour MSP guy, going on about you supporting austerity, and he just kept over and over going, yeah, but you supported that, didn't you? You supported them in doing this. And he was just shouting at him by the end. It was fucking brilliant. That's all you need to do. You don't need to even elicit the answer. Just by constantly prodding that thing and them not giving the answer, the public can see them for the liars they are. That's just basic journalism. It's good.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, everyone, it destroyed Michael Howard's career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, literally just 22 times wouldn't answer if we threatened to overrule him, and kept avoiding the question. Of course, he never answered it, but he didn't need to. It was the decision had been made that his career was over at that moment immediately. Right?
And when he dies, part of the package of like stuff you'll see on the news is that clip.
Yep.
It was an absolute career-defining moment of duplicity in refusing to answer the same question dozens of times. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, this is the reality of politics. You get remembered for the bad bits, right?
Yep.
Like when Michael Portillo dies, you're going to be seeing videos of the 97 count in Avonfield Southgate, right? That's who he's known for now.
What was his name again? The Labour guy with his cute little face.
Stephen.
Yeah. Anyway, you're going to see his surprised little face on stage, and Michael Portillo.
Stephen Twigg.
Stephen Twigg. He only retired, didn't he, last year? Was it or something?
Yeah. Last election when he stepped down.
And he was still young enough; he could have carried on. Anyway, but you're going to see his little face, and then Michael Portillo just looking utterly defeated.
And that's, I think, I think the big part of this clip that we're watching right now here is that. Well, the question, of course, is that, well, if he was sorry, he would have said it. Because, of course he isn't sorry. Of course he's not fucking sorry.
No.
That's what people watching this have to understand, right? That's what people watching this have to understand, right? These people hate you. They don't care about you. They want to rule over you because they believe they have a divine right to do so. And anything bad that happens isn't their fault, and they couldn't give a shit. Simple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know he's not. I know he's not sorry, but on occasion I do want a politician to lie. Right? I had this with actually with Jeremy Corbyn a long time ago when he was asked that infamous question about would you use nuclear weapons. Just lie. Just say, yeah, I'll do anything to protect this country. It's bollocks, but like if it ever comes to a nuclear exchange and he does or doesn't use a nuclear weapon, no one's going to go, well, 6 years ago you answered a question slightly wrongly, actually, about that question. No one gives a fuck. Just lie. And in this occasion, lie. I know you're not sorry. You know you're not sorry. But you should say sorry. Because you're supposed to pretend to be a human being, mate. Fucking weird Nazi lizard prick.
And it's relevant because we see another party, Reform, saying, you know, what Liz Truss said, times 5 or times 3 on a whole bigger scale. So we've learnt from that episode.
It's 9/11 times 1,000.
Made again.
True.
As a human being, if you make a mistake, you say, yeah, we messed up. Don't you just say sorry?
Look, we've been really clear. I mean, I don't know how many more times to say it. It was a mistake. They got it wrong, and those mistakes.
No, but you're not being asked whether mistakes were made. You're being asked to say sorry, right? You say, I don't know how many times I can repeat myself. Well, yeah, you're repeating yourself because you're not answering the fucking question, right?
Exactly, yeah. If you keep dodging the question, you can just keep asking the question then, can't you? You're not being, like, harassed with a question you've already answered because you haven't answered.
Or now the opposite number to the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, who we understand that the department has been trying to fight the Treasury to get more money for police officers.
Thanks. Honestly, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for really focusing on the big issues there. We need more spending for the fucking police. Honest to God, the Labour Party are fucking cunts. They really are.
Do you think that the Home Office police budget should be protected from cuts?
Yes, I do. I think I'm very concerned that police...
Really? Because when you first came in, one of the first things you did was cut loads of police, you bell ends.
Yeah, like we have fewer police per capita now than we did when they came into government in 2010.
Yeah. Like, again, no one cares what you have to say now because everything you say is something you did the opposite of when given the opportunity to do this. You said you were going to get rid of cut immigration down to tens of thousands. You raised it to 1 million, you cunts. You said you were going to protect the police budgets. You cut the police. You said you were going to protect frontline services. You absolutely decimated frontline services. You weren't going to raise VAT. You massively raised VAT.
Literally, we had billboards with David Cameron's shiny airbrushed fucking face saying, I'll cut the deficit, not the NHS. And we had the longest sustained drop in NHS funding as a percentage of GDP for 9 fucking years.
Yeah. They're just awful. And no one likes you. Go away. Tories, go away. You're not wanted. Even amongst Conservatives, because they know you're not actually Conservative. They want Nigel Farage now. He's the pretty boy. You're a really tired old freak. Go into the home and die. Of cancer, to continue the theme.
Police numbers may fall. Already this current financial year, so before this spending review, we are seeing police numbers falling. Sir Mark Rowley, the Commissioner of the Met, is going to have to shrink the Met's workforce by 1,700. Of which 1,500 will be police officers. So we're going to have less police in London, and the same story is going to play out across the country. And it looks like, from the reporting, that there are going to be problems in the 3 years after that as well, with the likelihood of police numbers under Labour going down. Whereas in government, when I was police minister this time last year, we actually hit record ever numbers of police. But Labour are putting that at risk. And what is extraordinary is that Labour have hit this country with the biggest tax rises in a generation. And yet, despite these enormous tax increases, which they lied about before the election, they claimed there were going to be no tax rises. That was a lie. Despite these huge tax rises, we are likely to see police numbers. Indeed, we are seeing right now police numbers falling.
Well, Labour would say that there wasn't a lie and that they made different decisions about tax once in office. But in
Well,
terms
they
of
should have
what,
owned up to that before the
you
election.
would do instead, so if you would want to protect the police budget, which you've said you would, where would you then cut from in order to keep those police numbers high?
Yeah, well, there are all kinds of areas where Labour is essentially splurging money. They're increasing, as your chart showed, they're increasing spending by a huge amount of money, partly funded by an enormous tax increase, partly by more borrowing.
So where would you cut to pay for the
Where
police?
would we do things differently? Where would we make different choices? I think we'd go further on welfare reform. So Mel,
there you go. So not get rid of... No, we would still spend tens of billions more on nuclear weapons that we don't need. Extra nuclear weapons on top of the already nuclear weapons we didn't need. Brilliant, fantastic stuff. Whereas the welfare bill needs to be decimated. Fantastic. Honestly, you've learned nothing. You deserve nothing. Next election, you're going to get nothing.
0 seats. Actually, that's a lie. They will not get 0 seats. They will get 3 seats. They will get the border constituencies in Scotland because literally everyone will never stop voting Tory in those seats for some reason, right? But that's my prediction.
If they get
3 seats, just those.
If they get so few seats that they can all fit into one vehicle, I think this show we should joint fund a minibus with our advertising on the side and not bust them to Downing Street or bust them to Parliament.
If they got 3 MPs, where would they be? How would they be like 9th place in terms of party size?
Depends how weird Northern Ireland gets, I guess.
Yeah, true. So they'd be obviously there'd be the 5 major parties. They'd be behind, right? Then they'd be behind Plaid Cymru, and they'd be behind the DUP, Sinn Féin, and Alliance.
Maybe, yeah, possibly.
So yeah, they would be in 9th. They'd be in 9th place. It'd be very funny.
They'd be literally right at the back, at the far. They'd be. Oh my god, it would be so funny to see the leader of the Conservative Party sat behind Jim Shannon. Oh, honestly, I might actually ejaculate. It would be that funny.
Himself, as Welfare Secretary last year, set out plans to save £12 billion from the welfare budget. Ed Miliband is proposing to spend £37 billion on his various green plans, including buying huge numbers of solar panels from China, with which...
Fuck yes! Another G-dub.
Absolutely. And just,
do nothing, sell solar panels, win. Boom.
Literally, and just in general, like, yeah, Ed Miliband, one of the only few people in the cabinet actually taking his brief seriously and doing good things.
Yeah,
right?
like actually putting any amount of effort into it. Yeah.
It's almost like Ed Miliband had his whole prospectus laid out months before the election and didn't have to go to a quango to try and decide what the policy should be, or fucking KPMG or some consultancy to decide what to do. Yeah. I read his full prospectus on energy policy way before the election. It was pretty good, right? It got muted by Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer cutting how much money they were going to give him, but it was a good plan, you know. Yeah. And again, this is all capital investment. This comes from borrowings. It doesn't come from operational expenditure, Chris. So you're trying to pretend that it does is a real fucking disingenuous nonsense. And on top of that, like, we are already going to see a massive stratospheric increase in disabled people living in poverty. And your answer is, well, we can still fund the police and the nuclear weapons and the military, and they should be getting extra funding for NATO. But if we want to save money, we should murder some disabled people. Like, these people are monsters.
They are evil people.
Genuinely evil.
Katie, you reckon the Tories might win Aberdeen? Is that because of the oil thing? You reckon? Or not? I don't know. But either way, I just want if the Tories got down to, like, even if they did get 50 seats, that would still be hilarious. Because I mean, that's fewer than the Lib Dems have now. You know, like, you're fucked.
Like, I think my hope is that they end up on 30 seats. The SNP roar back in Scotland, and the Greens win all those seats. They were in second place to Labour, so the Tories end up in, like, 6th.
Yeah. Honestly, if they end up anywhere near the Greens in terms of total number, you're over, lads. Because the Greens are a party with a future, and you aren't.
Which he plans to cover the British countryside, while at the same time shutting down oil and gas in the North Sea. They've also given their trade union paymasters massive...
When I say the Greens have a future, it kind of depends on the leadership thing. I'm just saying.
That's true, that's true.
I'm sorry, when one side of that campaign is, like, going on about how Bloomberg News has endorsed them...
It's over, it's not. It's kind of dead on arrival, really. Very funny to me that Chris Philp's idea of a policy platform to win people over. Is how dare Ed Miliband try and bring people's bills down by buying solar panels, right? We would keep the expensive and short-term oil and gas projects open, which are going to get decommissioned soon. Soon, and the availability of these things is limited because of the supply in the ground, right? Ed Miliband's long-term thinking, how dare he do such a thing, which is also going to bring bills down. Like, no one wants this, right? We keep getting... The politicians tell us that net zero is bad, and actually the public, their support for net zero and climate policy, not wavered at all in the slightest, right?
True.
Not wavered at all. We are still just as pro-green as we were 5 years ago.
True.
When Boris Johnson, ironically, was promising a green industrial revolution.
He was. What was I going to say? Yeah, maybe you should mention the Chagos Islands.
I'll really win over the floating voters, won't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure, right? That the people who live in Redcar, who have seen their community being kind of decimated by lack of investment for 46 years, I'm sure they're going to be won over to your side when you tell them about how terrible it is that we are losing a tiny strip of land in the Indian Ocean that they couldn't place on a map before fucking 6 months ago.
Well, they couldn't do now, because again, they've forgotten. They were angry about it for one weekend because the Daily Mail mentioned it, and that's it. They don't know where they've forgotten about it. Look, but did you see the PMQs in questions about public spending, about like the 2-child benefit cap and all that shit? She managed to mention the Chagos Islands twice. How? How did you manage to mention it once but twice? You're taking the piss. Like, is she a psyop? Is she a leftist psyop to kill the Tory party? It's the only thing that makes any sense anymore. That conspiracy theory.
I mean, the irony, of course, is that if there was one leftist psyop, I would believe it. But now it's been Liz Truss, followed by Sunak, followed by Kemi Badenoch. Like, it's obviously a problem with the Tories, right? I made this point on stream the other day, which is that, well, the big issue with the Tories is that they live in a fucking different reality to everybody else. Unlike Reform, where despite the fact that their leaders are all very privately educated, rich, wealthy people, their membership is full of like salt of the earth people from left behind communities. A lot of cases, right? There are some rich people there too, but they at least have a breadth of different experiences amongst their membership. Whereas the Tories are a legacy party full of the same families and the same dynasties from the same private schools with the same beliefs and the same ideologies from the same part of the country. There's this groupthink that means that they are totally insulated and isolated from the rest of society. And whereas the more kind of smarter politicians of yesteryear, like the Camerons or the Michael Goves, for example, right? Monsters, of course, but smarter politicians were able to win elections by at least trying to understand people's real fears and real concerns. These people haven't got a fucking clue. They literally do not have a clue. They have been high on their own supply of being divine right to rule. They've forgotten how to appeal to normal members of the public because they aren't normal. And Nigel Farage just has to say, I would do some good things and not bad things. And people go, oh, that guy seems far more down to earth than Chris Philp or Kemi Badenoch or fucking Mel Stride, right? Of course he does. Of course he fucking does. Anyone seems normal compared to the Tory party. And that's a systemic problem with the people that they are, that they cannot handle the bad times because the bad times don't affect them, so they can't empathise.
But you know, bad times will create hard men, and hard men create good times, and good times create weak men, and weak men create...
So clearly we need bad times so that we can have some hard men.
True. And no, Jack, William, I did not say if people give me 50 quid, I'll take you out for a Nando's. That is not a thing I said, ever.
True. But if you want me to be able to afford to be able to go to Nando's, you can help by subscribing on Twitch for $4.99 or for free with Twitch Prime by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Of course, we're not live on Twitch.
You'll be able to do that with me as well in about 2 hours' time.
I mean, it's almost 10 p.m, right? So it's 11 p.m. You get rebanned off Twitch, right?
Something like that, I think. I don't know. But yeah.
You can also become a member on YouTube for 99p. You can gift memberships at 99p each to people watching to help boost the stream and the algorithm. And you can super chat for giving us extra money, which we will read out for you. And we both have Patreon as well. There are infinite avenues with which that you can give us your money.
True.
And then I can get a Nando's.
True.
And buy more Ribena because I've run out.
What you live with the rock and roll lifestyle, yeah. Telling you.
Above inflation pay increases, that £10,000 to train drivers, for example, without any sort of performance improvements.
Right, but the thing is, trains running is good and the country comes to a grinding halt if it stopped. If you stayed home, Mr. Philp, I don't know that anyone would notice.
And also, like, they would need to have a performance improvement to justify extra pay if their pay was going up in real terms. But it's not going up in real terms. It's going down in real terms, even with the pay increase, because it got wiped out by the inflation that happened under your government. So actually, it's not a pay increase. It is pay restoration. Why there should be any productivity gains to justify pay restoration to what they were paid before? Like, you need to work harder to get the same real terms pay. Like, anyone normal would realize that was stupid. But of course, he just doesn't care. Because, of course, he's never improved his performance at all at anything, because, of course, it's difficult to improve by multiplying by 0.
Also, Phantom of Black with the best one. Hard times create strong men create good times times create soft men make me hard.
Up the twinks.
Fair dues. Yeah, who doesn't like a little Twinkie boy? Come on now.
Or reform in return.
So public pay, environmental action, and the welfare bill is where you would get
and they're
the
also,
cash.
and by borrowing more money as they're doing, in addition to putting taxes up, they're driving up interest repayments. So this year we're going to be paying the country £100 billion in interest because they borrowed.
It was under your government that interest rates were like a 15-year high, and then we've had 3 rate cuts since you were out of government, right? I'm no fucking bag carrier for Labour, but you saying, well, they're borrowing money and it's pushing interest rates up is just totally untrue. Interest rates have gone down every single time the Monetary Policy Committee has convened since you were kicked out of government, right? It's your government that pushed up interest rates with the stupid Liz Truss budget that you wouldn't even fucking apologise for. Like, what a fucking inversion of reality he's doing here.
Exactly. That Liz Truss budget was so scary it killed the Queen. She had a heart attack. She was like, oh no, if the economy crashes, how am I going to keep hold of all of my money to pay off my son's paedophile victims? No! That's a thing what she did.
Borrowed more money. That is double the MOD budget. It's about 5 times the police budget. So because they're being so reckless, they're driving up those interest costs.
Our viewers, of course, all know very well that when you left office, taxes were at record high and borrowing was also extremely high. But I want to ask you...
God, absolutely rinsed. You're getting rinsed by Boris Johnson's cheerleader.
And she couldn't even rinse him on the reality, which is that it was his government that put up interest rates,
Yeah, but just like, I just want to point out your government was shit. Moving on. Like, just... Okay, cool.
More,
but I want to ask you about another issue that has been stirred up this week. There was a debate about this in this country about 10 years ago, actually, but it's been reignited this week by a Reform MP asking the Prime Minister whether or not he would ban the burqa. I want to ask any of these pricks to tell me what they think a burqa is. Because if you don't even know what you're talking about, why should I take your opinion on it seriously?
I mean... Have you seen Rupert Lowe's new gambits talk about banning non-stun / halal slaughter? When, of course, people are trying to say, oh, but how dare you care? You support fox hunting. Why do you care about animal welfare? Well, no, he doesn't care about animal welfare. He hates Muslims.
Yeah.
When in reality, 90% of halal meat is slaughtered after stunning. It is actually stun slaughter, right? There are 10% who are very kind of, orthodox Muslims who still want to have it non-stun, and I think that should be banned. I agree with Rupert Lowe on that one thing. But he's not doing this to try and skewer the people who don't care about animal rights. He's trying to skewer Muslims. Because you know what kind of slaughter is never stunned? Do you know what kind of animal slaughter never stuns the animal? Kosher. Except he doesn't mention that when 90% of halal does stun. Because he hates Muslims. He doesn't care about animal welfare.
It was the same thing with the banning Sharia courts. Forgetting, of course, that we'd had the exact same thing, religious courts of arbitration, as the Beit Din courts, Jewish courts of religious arbitration, for like 300 years. We've had Christian religious courts of arbitration, Sikh and Hindu courts of arbitration. They're fine.
Yeah. We have bishops in the fucking House of Lords.
Yeah, literally, we have them writing laws that every fucker has to live by. Yeah, it's come on now, let's not be silly.
The Tory leader Kemi Badenoch has told the Telegraph today that bosses should be able to ban employees from wearing the burqa, and she told that paper, "I'm not going to talk to people who don't show their face." Is it now your party's position not to speak to people who have face coverings?
Well, she was talking specifically about her constituency surgery, I think, and it is definitely the case that...
She's just... I mean, okay, I understand in a sense because it could be quite rude, but, like, she just takes the weirdest positions on everything. Like, she's just an unpersonable human. Whether it's going on about, I won't talk to people with face coverings, or eating sandwiches makes you a woofter. Like, she's just mental. She's just a mad person. She believes really silly things.
Again, like, there's the same person who, in her fucking opening gambit to be Tory leader, said, I'm not scared of Doctor Who. Like, you're taking your fucking Twitter beef into professional politics. She's insane.
Well, she does. She comes up with what policy for the day based on what's trending on Twitter. Sorry, X, the everything app. Like, she just, whatever nonsense has come up now. Yeah, my official policy is that the dress is blue and black, not gold and white.
Employers should be allowed to decide whether their employees can be visible or not. But look, I don't think this is necessarily the biggest issue facing our country right now. There's a legitimate debate to have about the burqa. You've got obviously arguments about personal liberty and choice and freedom on one side, and arguments about causing divisions in society.
My argument is that I don't think the government has a fucking right to be telling people what they can and can't wear. I don't think it's the government's position to be doing so. I don't want them mandating what you can't wear in exactly the same way I wouldn't want them mandating what you must wear.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just in reality, right? Like, there are certain reasons, there are certain circumstances where you should be forced to lift the burqa, right? Like, for example, passport control.
Yeah, that's
so that you look like your passport photo, but that happens already, right? We already have like the mitigation that is necessary for security for things like face coverings, where for security reasons you need to see people's faces. Other than that, like as you said, like, what the fuck should the state be enforcing clothing preferences on anybody?
Yeah. Especially when the people in the state are crazy fuckers who wear secret robes in their Masonic lodges and stuff. Like, shut the fuck up, lads. Or indeed, as previously mentioned, bishops in dresses. Like, you know, it's all a bit strange.
And what's the irony, of course, is that when people say they ban the burqa, what they mean is ban the niqab.
Well, exactly, that's what I mean, yeah, because they're called different things. There are four main types, aren't there? There's the kind of wraparound thing, and then there's a wraparound thing with shoulders, and then there's a mostly face covering, and then there's a complete face covering. Like, there are different pieces of cloth, and that's the thing. It's cloth, lads. Calm down.
Because I fundamentally believe that through cultural exchange, like, a lot of the kind of people who would usually wear things like the burqa, for example, are going to be very unlikely to wear it in Western countries anyway. Like, that generation's probably kind of dying out now.
A little bit,
as they westernize, right? It's very rare you see people in burqas. You sometimes see niqabs from time to time. But most Muslims who live in the West either don't wear a hijab or any kind of head covering at all, or wear a hijab, right? That's the only real popular one, because, like, most people who live in Western countries, they're going to be living in our climates, so they're going to wear a hoodie and jeans and then a hijab. They're not going to bother wearing a chador or anything like that.
I've never quite understood the hair thing. Now, this has got nothing to do with the rights of anyone to cover their hair. You're perfectly entitled to, go for it. But I don't get why God would want you to cover your hair. I don't get the hair. Why the hair is so terrible to be seen.
Well, it's about temptation, I think, right? You know.
Is the hair the thing that's tempting, though? Is what I would question.
Yeah. I mean, apparently there's been a religious belief in loads of other places, like, you know, old kind of, I think it's obviously nuns covered their hair. So did there was a kind of historically people like the Amish women covered their hair as well.
Yeah,
right?
true.
Maybe
there is an old timey thing where people would just spontaneously ejaculate at the sight of hair. I don't know. Hair can be pretty, that is true, but I don't know that hair is the thing. You know, like, if you've got your tits out but your hair's covered, I don't think you're doing it right. You know,
I mean, it's super weird, right? And again, it's across basically all the Abrahamic religions. You see these things. And even there's the what's the name of the Jewish woman head scarf that they sometimes wear? You know,
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I forget the names. Either way, like, all of the Abrahamic religions have been like this, and I don't know why it is. Because, see, historically, even though everyone grows hair on their head, for some reason, historically, men have just always had, like, short hair in kind of depiction. Apart from, like, in some certain societies, right? There's always been this differentiation between men having short hair and women having long hair. Like, who the fuck knows where this came from? So this differentiation is why the women have seemed to have, like, the luscious locks of temptation. When, of course, the irony is that this level of modesty hasn't always been levied at women, right? There was an Iranian man who got banned from Iran for being too beautiful. I believe that was the story. Was it Iran?
That would be one hell of a flex. I got exiled because I'm too fucking pretty. Come on, that's dope. That's dope.
That's true, yeah. Omar Borkan Al-Galar became notorious in 2013 when media coverage claimed he'd been deported from the country.
I thought this was going to be like 1840 or something. What the fuck?
It's Iraq, not Iran.
Oh, Iraq. Okay.
Yeah, Omar Borkan Al-Galar became notorious in 2013 when media coverage claimed that he'd been deported from the country for being too handsome. This is not the case, sorry.
But it turned out he was a terrorist.
The incident occurred at the Jandria Cultural Festival in Riyadh, during which he and two other male models worked on promotion stands.
Okay.
That's what it was. And some girls recognised him from some modelling he had done, and they gathered for autographs and photos, after which the crowd around them grew. Al-Gala said that the religion police didn't like it, and they came and asked him to leave the festival. The members of the Commission for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vices in Saudi Arabia feared that female visitors would fall in love with them.
What's wrong with that? Fucking hell. Oh my god. Okay, well, talking of people you can fall in love with, Chris... Oh no, that doesn't work at all.
Thank you for the 20 gifted Weaver, I appreciate it.
The possibility of coercion on the other. That is a debate I think we as a country should be having. But as Kemi said, it's probably not the biggest issue our nation faces today.
But she said, I'm not talking to people who are not going to show me their face. Do you talk to people who aren't going to show you their face?
Well, look, I talk to people the whole time.
But do you?
I think I have in the past.
You're going to struggle considering half of the fucking estate I live on cover their face with Burberry scarves every day. Walk around like you know what I mean. It's not like some shit that just the brown people are doing. Come on now.
Spoken to people obviously wearing a burqa. I mean, I represent a London constituency, but everybody can make their own choices. That's the point she was making. Each employer should be able to make their own choices.
Okay, Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, thanks very much indeed for joining us this Sunday. Always good to have you with us in the studio. Remember, as ever, we want to know what you think. You can email us, kunsberg@bbc.co.uk, or if you're social media inclined, you can use the hashtag.
Honestly, if anything, just goes to show you the inadequacy of these fucking average white men who run everything. The last two interviews shows you everything. What more evidence do you need? We're a mediocrity.
That's a very, very good turn of phrase there. Just totally unprepared for the gravitas of the moment we live in currently.
Yeah, completely just not up to the task at all.
Laura Kay and the WhatsApp number 08000 282 161, and we'll hear from you either at the end of the show or in our newsletter every Thursday. Let's then check in with our panel. Jeremy Hunt, do you think we learned anything more about what's going to be in the spending review for Peter Kyle, or did he do the standard, manage to bat it all back despite our efforts?
I think he did what I used to do with you quite a lot, which is to say, I'm sorry, but you'll have to wait until the announcement happens in Parliament. But, you know, I think what is interesting is the way the tech sector is a big hope for this country. I've got a new book out this week in which I say that the reason we can be more optimistic...
Anyone who buys that book gets put on the fucking list.
Immediately, absolutely. It puts it clearly as they put in an insane asylum.
Yeah, exactly. Like you've shown that you cannot treat your freedom with any semblance of responsibility, so you have it taken away from you until you show that you've gotten better.
About the British economy than most people are is that we have a real chance of becoming the world's next Silicon Valley. And
shut the actual
what he was
fuck
doing was
up.
expressing some of that confidence, but I think we need to look at the details. We're seeing these huge numbers, you know, R&D going up to 60, 70, 80 billion pounds, and I think the Treasury are masters at spinning these numbers, I'm afraid, from my own experience, and sometimes they don't quite add up to what you expect. But if it is true, I will be thrilled, because, you know, we have, outside the US, best universities in the world, and very, very respected.
Well, until we stop accepting those foreign students, and then we're fucked.
This is a huge opportunity for the UK.
Is it realistic, though, Dan, to talk about the UK as being the next Silicon Valley? I mean, we took a close look at one of the plans for a big data centre.
I don't want to just be sort of needlessly cynical about everything and downbeat, but, like, we have to be realistic. We're not going to be the new fucking Silicon Valley. What we could be is, like, a reasonable, medium-sized player. Fine, that's possible. But don't pitch yourself too high, because again, you get people's hopes up in a way that cannot possibly be met, and therefore will just make people more cynical towards politics in general, because they'll say, we tried this thing and we fucking failed, because we were always going to fail.
Exactly, yep, 100%.
In Northumberland that's being built, and actually the number of long-term jobs that will be created there is not tens of thousands, it's 400. I mean, we've heard for a long time politicians say things like we're going to be a tech superpower, and what does it really translate to?
Well, it's hard to know what they mean by that. I think just in my own personal experience, one big difference we have to California is the difficulty of raising money. You know, at the venture capital, it's just there's less of it in the UK, and it's harder for founders to go out there and get that kind of critical seed funding, which is so important to building those big businesses. So,
Coco, what did you think of what you heard Peter Carroll when we were pressing him on police, on housing? I mean, we know there are well-publicised battles inside government over cuts to bits of the public sector.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, he talked a lot about welfare reform, and sometimes that phrase irks me. Just say what it is. It's cuts, isn't it? It's cuts to the most vulnerable who already are getting pitiful sums to survive. There's no evidence that it works. It appears to me to be an appeasement to the right-wing press, to sections of the right-wing public, and I don't think there's any evidence that it will actually help the people that really, really need it. Labour seem very...
Go off, Queen. Absolutely.
Especially seeing next to Jeremy Hunt, who's opening Gambit with me to look at more welfare reform. It's
exactly.
like, yay, kill the poors. Let's go.
That's what it is, yeah. When they say reform, they don't mean like just restructuring it a bit. They mean giving less money to poor people. That's it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. It's a euphemism. It's a lie.
Very scared of reform. Reform will capitalise on this, and I'm very nervous about reform. I think they will. They play in grievance politics, right? That's what they do. So if people's lives are miserable, then it's perfect for them. So improve people's lives, and I don't think anything he said to me that people's lives were going to get better, that they would get a GP appointment without it being Takeshi's Castle, that they would, not have to worry about children going into care in their schools and their children's classmates. You know, those things don't seem to be improved.
Well, we talked to Richard Tice, the Deputy Leader of Reform, in a few minutes' time. But, Jeremy, when it comes to welfare, I mean, Coco's just said there's no evidence that it actually works trying to bring that bill down.
Well, I think I would probably disagree with Coco respectfully, because I think the best way to get kids out of poverty, families out of poverty, is to get them into work. And I think at the moment
welfare cuts don't do this.
Signing off about.
The whole point that Coco Khan was making is that welfare cuts do not do this. They just don't, right? Our labour force participation rate is like leagues behind other countries with much more generous welfare states than us. If cutting the welfare budget got people into work, then the evidence is literally the total opposite.
Okay, I'm just saying this. He's on the cancer list. I'm starting a thing called cancer culture. Okay.
1,000 people every year, and we're saying not just that you don't have to work, but you don't even have to look for work. And if you've got anxiety or depression, most doctors will say the most important thing is social contact. And signing people off work, I think, is the wrong way, and I think it'll lead to people being entrenched in poverty more. But my real point is that for Rachel Reeves, the challenge she has is that without welfare reform, she is going to have to raise taxes, and that's going to hurt growth, and we're going to end up in a doom loop of ever higher taxes, ever lower growth, and I think that would be a tragedy for everyone.
It's always the worst reminding people, most people who claim benefits, whatever kinds of benefits they are, most people who are on benefits are working, and they claim benefits because they don't earn enough to have what the state discerns is a decent living.
And that's what Ian Duncan Smith's reforms did, and I think that's a really good thing. But
No, you and Ian Duncan Smith have a special place in hell waiting for you.
Yep. Where the ghosts of all of the people who died too soon because of the cuts that you made will torment you for eternity.
Yeah.
My concern is the number of people who are now being signed off, being told you don't have to even look for work. That number has grown massively since the pandemic. Now, I think Rachel Reeves...
Whoa. The number of sick people increased after the pandemic? Wow, that is a surprise. That's incredible that after a pandemic where loads of people got sick, the number of people signed off for work for being sick is higher.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff, isn't it?
So after that massive injection of illness into the country, more people are ill. Breaking news.
do the right thing. But what I'm nervous about is that in the last couple of months, she and Keir Starmer seem to be losing their nerves. And the result we won't see this week, but in the autumn, when taxes, I'm afraid, inevitably end up going up.
But I can hear in my ear, metaphorically speaking, some people screaming at the telly and thinking, oh, well, hang on a minute, who was the Chancellor when a lot of this happened? And who was the Chancellor when taxes went up and when lots of people went onto welfare?
And who was the Chancellor who started to bring them down, by the way?
It was Jeremy Hunt, and you were part of governments over many, many years that saw taxes go up and saw these kinds of long-term problems be stored up.
Well, you know, when I was Chancellor, we discussed this many times, but I did bring down taxes in an autumn statement and a budget, and you challenged me many times on saying, is this the right thing to do?
Pause.
And I said it.
But taxes went down on national insurance by a couple of percentage points. But overall taxation levels increased because of fiscal drag that you continued, and Labour are continuing right now. Arguably justifiable. I've said many times that the tax base needs to be wider because we have problems in terms of the overall expenditure in the economy, which is way behind other comparable European countries, which is why our public services suck. We have an aging population that has necessitated higher taxes since then, right? You can make a perfect case for this, but just because you do some tax cuts doesn't mean that overall taxation is increasing, because you've kept the threshold on PAYE, the largest section of income tax that gets paid, right? The biggest sector of tax in the whole economy, that's been frozen, and so inflation is eating into it, right? So taxes did go up, that's just true.
Surely they wouldn't just allow that. Someone would go on TV and just lie.
Incredible scenes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was, but I just make this bigger point. There is a lot of gloom and doom at the moment, and I think actually as a country, we need to get our self-confidence back a little bit. We are still the 6th largest economy in the world.
You cheeky cunt. You destroyed the country for 15 years, hollowed it out completely, and now you want to turn around and be like, why is everyone so grumpy?
it's
honestly,
it makes you furious, isn't it?
Honestly, you the fact that you're wearing jeans as well. Like, if you're going to be a suit cunt, wear a fucking suit. Do it properly. Don't turn up in your fucking dad jeans now that you're unemployed. Okay? Actually, is he unemployed? He might still be an MP.
No, he's still the MP. Yeah.
Oh, for God! But wear some fucking trousers then, you lazy bastard. Fuck's sake, you get 120 grand a year or whatever as an ex-minister. Fuck's sake.
In 15 years' time, experts say we will still be the 6th largest economy, and I think, you know, what worries me is if the government loses
if we're fantastically rich, why is everything broken? Why does nothing work? Why can we achieve nothing? Jeremy, I ask you, mate. Why have we got more billionaires than ever and less working rail track than ever?
Important question.
When actually the fundamentals about the UK are actually a lot better than most of us think.
Dan, do you think that? Do you think actually we should just all cheer up?
I think we need to cheer up, but we've got a devastating, as I said right at the beginning, there's huge challenges we face. I think it's okay to be really sad and upset about, for example, increased defence spending. I think it is an abomination in many ways. It's terrible that we're going to spend money on bombs and bullets and drones, that we could invest in early years education. But the fact is that doesn't mean it isn't necessary. It's a tragedy, but it's actually not Jeremy's fault. It's not
it doesn't mean it's not necessary, but it is also not necessary.
Yeah, no, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not necessary, but the fact is, it is unnecessary. It's not inherently so, it just is. Okay. Also, Dan Snow, you live in California. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up.
Current Labour government's fault. It is Vladimir Putin's fault, and we're going to be fighting a lot about this kind of thing over the next few years. But let's not forget, we do need to spend that money on defence, because without peace, if you want peace, you prepare for war.
But where do you then not spend money?
Okay, but that's the laziest fucking wankers saying ever. Because what does preparing for war even mean? It doesn't just mean throwing tens of billions of more good pounds at the wall. Because we've already got nuclear weapons. This extra spending won't make us any safer.
Well, like, as I said, yeah, like, what's the threat? Like, a Russian ground invasion of Britain? When the fuck is that happening?
No.
When we are a nuclear-armed island nation?
Exactly. Which, again, we'd still be that if we didn't have them on planes. Because we haven't been... You may have noticed, although some of our cities are in rough shape, we have not actually been bombed at any point. The nuclear submarines have been a perfectly adequate deterrent. Having that capability on planes, I don't see as a particular step forward.
No, quite.
You put taxes up even more. So I know from time to time you've been a Lib Dem backer. The political picture
Of
is
course
very challenging
has.
for the government on this. Where should they cut back if all that money is going to defence?
That's obviously a question. That's why I'm very glad I'm not a politician. What an absolute nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I don't know the answer to that question.
Rich prick doesn't know where the money's coming from. What a surprise. I can't possibly think where. I'll have to go back to my mansion in California and have a real think about where the money might be coming from for all of this. Come on, like, Jesus Christ. It's like Scrooge McDuck or Schmaug going, where's all the money? Fuck off.
But what I accept that, as my wife's a prison reformer, and she would argue there are great savings to be made in criminal justice because we're spending far too much on locking people up, and which makes them more likely to commit crimes in the future, therefore more victims of crime.
Coco, how much trouble do you think the government might find themselves in with their own voters and with people on the left, or their activists as well, their party, if they proceed down these lines?
It's strange because I think Labour, in a way, have made a rod for their own back, and I get that Labour has received ongoing criticism that they're not good with money, so they need to show that they're so good with money that they're basically the Tories, which is not what anybody voted for. The poster said change. I mean, I'd call trading standards, but I think they probably had their funding cut anyway. I think that,
that's a good
we're
line.
sort of talking around the houses a little bit.
Yeah.
The irony, of course, is that the reality is that the Tories are the ones who've always been shit with money.
Yeah, the economy was fucked, yeah.
Yeah, like this long-standing narrative that the Tories are the fiscally sensible ones and the Labour Party are the fiscally reckless ones. And, like, even if you disagree with the way in which the Labour Party shaped the economy, which I agree with them before 1979, I disagree with, like, the Blair governments and things like that, right? And there were some short-term decisions that Blair made were terrible, like PFI or whatever, right? Fair. But broadly, no one who's been a Labour Prime Minister or a Labour Chancellor has made an economic decision that's destroyed the economy. Like, they've never really been, like, reckless in terms of the way they've managed the economy. It's usually been pretty steady. Yet the Tories, every single government that they have had from, like, the end of the 1960s until present day has had catastrophic economic failure associated with it, right? We've got the Barber boom and the 3-day week of the Heath era. We have Thatcherism, like, from beginning to end, like the sell-off of the oil, the gigantic inflationary spirals, the huge interest rates, the massive unemployment, all of the things that's associated with the fucking ridiculous gigantic failure that the Thatcher administration was. You had the exchange rate mechanism shit under John Major and selling off the trains. Under David Cameron, you had the fucking nightmare policy of austerity that was in no way economically justified at all, right? You were at the bottom of the business cycle in the middle of a recession. You're supposed to increase spending, not cut spending. It is economic illiteracy of the highest order. And then under Liz Truss, we had the mini budget debacle, right? No Labour government in history has done anything that's close to any of these things, right? The Tories have always been terrible with the economy. They have never managed it well. It is a giant fantasy that I cannot believe persists to this day. What do people say in response? Oh, well, Gordon Brown sold the gold. Yeah, not a great decision. Did it collapse the economy like Liz Truss, Heath, Thatcher, Major, Cameron? No, of course it didn't, right? That's a ridiculous comparison to make. I genuinely want nobody to say this ever again.
Yeah.
There's 50 families in the UK that have as much money as 50% of the population combined. There is money in the UK, and we're all talking about taxes. Oh, taxes aren't equal. Yeah, taxes on working people who earn average amounts. Yeah, we don't want to see their tax burden go up. But there are ultra wealthy people who are not paying enough. There are companies who are tax dodging, in my view, who are not doing enough. We can find money, and Labour's painted themselves in the corner by saying we're going to stick to these fiscal rules. Do they need to do that right now? They have some leeway. I know Rachel Reeves has tweaked it a bit and has managed to release more money than Mr Hunt did. But again, this is tinkering around the edges. It doesn't improve people's material conditions. It doesn't make them feel safer. And that is just...
I'm sorry, did we just see a little twinkle of Marxism breaking forth there? What is this?
I mean, I'm down for it. I mean, it does seem to be like one of my things that I've been kind of pushing into the public consciousness. I mean, obviously not on my channel, but I've tried to get people to explain these things to their friends and stuff. My point is just being like, get people speaking in Marxist language again. The reason why we are here is the West broadly has been bereft of material analysis because it was seen as communistic, right? Like thinking of things in material rather than ideological terms was something that was beaten out of public discourse by McCarthyism. And that's led to a position where no one can understand why countries in the West are collapsing because they can't materially analyze as to why the population is the way that it is and the way that they think the way that they do. And I think that if we want to have a left that can win, we have to find a story and a narrative that pulls together the threads of failure up to this point. And how can you do that unless you analyze things from a material perspective?
Indeed.
Perfect for Nigel Farage.
Jeremy, do you think it's realistic to think you could get more money from people at the top? You might not ideologically like it, but sometimes people say when you think about wealth taxes, actually they don't deliver in the end. But did you ever sit in the Treasury and think, you know what, I don't want to do it politically, but you could get loads more money out of the mega rich?
In the end, you have to look after the wealth-creating capacity of the economy. And everyone always says they like...
Yeah, you do have to suck rich people's cocks, yeah, obviously. Yeah, that's the only thing a chancellor should ever do. Yeah.
I agree. We should look after the wealth creators of the economy. Those wealth creators are fucking workers. The wealth creators are the people who go out there and be productive. People who sit on their arse, turning money into money and doing no work. They are economically inactive. They are parasites. They are leeches. They produce nothing. Wealth is created by people increasing the amount of stuff in the economy. It gets increased by people doing work. That's how those things increase.
Yeah, but you know he just means like rich people.
Exactly. Again, like there's no justification for this economic falsehood that the only way your country gets wealthy or you increase prosperity is by having more rich people. That's just not true.
Yeah. But with that economic falsehood, what is a conservative?
True.
Just to go up, but on someone else. The reality is that the number of people with the kind of money that Coco's talking about is actually very low. It doesn't raise huge amounts of money, and that huge increase in spending, the 40 billion...
the making sure that companies aren't tax dodging and putting taxes on the rich, it doesn't really create that much money, does it? No, and we can definitely believe him, because why would a Conservative ever lie about that? Why would a rich man ever lie? Putting taxes up on me will not create that much money, honest, so you shouldn't try.
I mean, the wealth taxes we're asking for, it looks like it range around 20 to 30 billion pounds, right? Which is more than the tax rises we're seeing currently, but it's not like a epoch-shattering level of money that would change the broad fiscal envelope in the long term, right? But it needs to happen now because we need immediate funding immediately. Because we need funding immediately. But on top of this, it's all about taking assets out of the hands of the wealthy and forcing them to sell them back into the economy to try and ensure that asset ownership isn't the preserve of the ultra rich. There's multiple facets why a wealth tax is good, and I think we should be raising taxes elsewhere as well on loads of other things too. So,
taxes that Rachel Reeves put up, that actually is going to be borne by ordinary families in the end, because it always works out that way, and we've got to avoid that doom loop. I want more money to go into public services,
Pause.
but I want to avoid the kind of...
it's going to tax ordinary families because it always works out that way. I wonder why it's always worked out that way, Jeremy. What do you think it might be about our political class that every time they raise taxes it just happens to go up on normal working people? Or what it says even about how our entire economy works from a base perspective, huh? I wonder if there might be something about capitalism that always puts the burden on the proletariat.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Also, why is it that under your chancellorship that happened as well, Jeremy? Because surely you're so clever and brilliant at economics that wouldn't have happened. You'd have made sure only the richest could possibly have paid, right?
Well, no, it's just, unfortunately, it's just the way it happens if we raise...
Yeah.
Completely out of my control, sorry. I just happened to give loads of money to rich people when I was Chancellor, and it's just... I had no alternative.
True.
Huge increases in business taxes that bring down growth and mean that Rachel Reeves will have even less money to play with going forward.
Dan?
I think that I could afford to pay more tax. So I think it's going to be, I think given the unparalleled series of challenges that face us, I think we do have to be realistic about accepting that. And I think that we also need to, though, accept in terms of defence, it's a tragedy, but it is necessary. And we also, just on that as well, we've had
Okay,
this defensive
can
view.
military historian wankers like this stop pretending that they don't love the military? Can you just stop? Because it's not convincing in the slightest. They all fucking do this. Oh, if only we lived in a world where you didn't need the military. The woe is war. You fucking love it. You get a boner every time a bomb goes off. Stop pretending that you don't love it. It's a tragedy. Suck my fucking balls.
There's some really interesting stuff in there around new technology. There's also a key point there is that's working with European allies. And Britain has won its greatest wars, the wars that people will read about, give books to their father-in-law at Christmas about, Waterloo, the Somme, D-Day, Blenheim. Those wars, all the battles and those wars have all been won by Britain working as part of giant international coalitions. We've got, the EU's got a GDP multiple times that of Russia, population, Russia 140 million, EU 450 million. We do not have to be scared of Russia as long as we're working hand in glove with our European allies.
I'm really glad to hear you say you could pay more tax. I would happily pay more tax. Tax is cool. I feel we need a rebrand of tax. Tax is a good thing. It's the only vehicle we have to stop the ultra rich taking complete advantage of us. And also, my bins only get collected every 2 weeks. I'm very sad about it. I would pay more tax.
Stop flexing that you get your bins collected. There's no need. It's rubbing it in. Yeah, apparently the strike looks like it's going to rumble until Christmas, which just means we're going to have, what, fucking reindeer-sized rats at that point. How fucking big are these rats going to get?
Attack of the killer rats.
Exactly.
I'd like to see more people be proud of tax.
Okay.
I'm glad you're not standing for Parliament, Coco, because I don't think that line would go down very
Tax
well.
is
Yeah, telling the truth about tax to the electorate is a really silly thing to do, actually. This is how this country's so fucked that we're just going to pretend. Every politician has to pretend that tax is just inherently evil. When, like, how does the government do anything ever without tax? It's so silly.
They can open the spending envelope because money essentially always comes from the public purse. Like, taxation is a form of inflation control, basically, and a way of manipulating the economy. But of course, you know, if you spend money, unless you tax most of the money you spend back, the monetary pressure on inflation will be out of control, right? So there is no, like, the limit. Like, what tax does is it gives the actual currency its value because you need to be able to pay the tax, and therefore the value is how much tax you can pay with that money. But as you say, right, if it didn't tax, it would be able to do nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, all three of you, thanks for now. We'll be back with you towards the end of the programme. Still to come before that, a stern word from a familiar face.
Stop
By the way,
whining.
Kev, it's now 10:30 and I'm tired and I want to have some dinner. So all we've got left is Arnold Schwarzenegger and Richard Tice. Do you want to leave it there?
Yeah, I'm happy leaving it there. We've been going 3.5 hours anyway. Yeah.
We have, yeah.
So
and it's always good to have you back as well.
Well, it's good. It's good to be back, and I will be back on Twitch as well, so I can stream like a normal person. And I promise I won't hate the straights anymore. Okay, I will just stick to the usual thing of just being a rape apologist, which is apparently fine on Twitch.
Or showing recruitment videos for Ansar Allah. That's fine.
That's also fine, yes, yeah. Or maybe I'll just get my tits out.
Kevin Logan hot tub stream. Let's go.
Let's fucking go. Let's go. Anyway, yes. What I forgot. Bye.
Go and subscribe. Go and subscribe to Kevin Logan.
My fucking brain totally went then. I was thinking, like, was that sexist? Well, did I do a sexism there? Probably. I don't know. Anyway, yes, everyone go and follow No Justice MTG on all of the platforms.
Absolutely. And I'm going to raid into My Left Eye over on the YouTubes.
I will probably join you in that endeavour, because I'd totally forgotten to even go to the fucking page where you can do that. Right, where are we? My Left Eye, there we go. Boom. Okay,
nice.
okay, everyone.
I'll be back tomorrow, so I'll see you then.
Yeah, Free Palestine.
Bye.
Bye.